Lin Hao found Gu Qingxian inside a combustion chamber below deck. Lin Hao, what are you doing here? Standing in front of two coal-fired boilers, Gu Qingxian was trying to figure out how to get the ship underway. This steamship had no sails, freeing it from reliance on wind, yet it depended far more heavily on fuel. Normally, a steamship burned coal to boil water. Steam would drive the engine and generate propulsion. But they had no coal, only piles of wood, so Gu Qingxian was forced to try burning wood instead. Will that even generate enough power? Lin Hao asked curiously. It will. It just produces less heat, so will move much slower. Lin Hao checked the stats of the steamship. Steamship, Tier 1, Captain, Gu Qingxian, Crew, 28, Ship Speed, 15 knots. Sure enough, the vessel moved considerably faster. Come on, I'll show you the other rooms. Oh, so she had already planned out the ship's interior layout long ago. Following Gu Qingxian, he arrived at a greenhouse. It was filled with flower pots, each planted with vegetables. We can't keep surviving on instant noodles and bread. I thought we ought to pick up the old-timer skills, don't you agree? Did you get these seeds through trades? Exactly. We're practically the only group willing to trade for seeds. Valuable as they are, other crews don't even have enough drinking water, so they have no choice but to trade them to us. Lin Hao glanced over the room, full of planters. Many of the plants had already sprouted. That makes sense. Without water to drink, they certainly can't spare any to water crops. Gu Qingxian then led him into another room, where a large machine stood. Lin Hao recognized it. Blueprints for this device were sold in the system shop, purchasable only with survival points. You actually bought this too? Just how many survival points have we earned? Gu Qingxian covered her mouth and smiled. Not all that much. After spending 200 points on the steamship blueprints and another 100 for this machine, we have 375 left. Inside the system shop, water and food had fixed prices. One survival point bought 500 milliliters of water plus 200 grams of bread. That meant whenever Gu Qingxian traded survival points from other players, she had to give them resources worth more than what the system sold. Her brows drew together, her tone turning grim. Don't let our earnings fool you. Our expenses are enormous. You have no idea how much iron went into building this machine. 3 refined iron ingots. 1 refined iron ingot equaled 10 iron ingots. 1 iron ingot equaled 10 refined iron blocks. 1 refined iron block equaled 10 iron blocks. 3 refined iron ingots amounted to 3,000 iron blocks, nearly half of all the iron they had brought back the previous day. The machine was called the Monster Disassembler. As its name suggested, it broke down monster corpses. That was exactly why Lin Hao had brought back the fish monster's body. Gu Qingxian took 2 vials of liquid from the end of the disassembler. These are the potions extracted from the fish monster you killed, energy factor and healing factor. Besides the potions, Lin Hao noticed piles of leftover scrap that could be used as fertilizer. Seeing Lin Hao's attention drifting, Gu Qingxian coughed to get him back on track. These are extremely valuable. Energy factor can be crafted into many kinds of potions. Strength potions to boost physical power, speed potions to raise agility, and more. Healing factor makes healing potions. The healing potion you gave me was almost certainly made from this material. Do we have the crafting recipes? Recipes differ from blueprints and can be reused infinitely. Gu Qingxian shook her head. We don't. We can only stockpile the materials or ask Xiao Wanan's group to craft for us. Lin Hao could guess easily enough that getting outsiders to craft would cost a steep price. Judging by Gu Qingxuan's expression, the cost would be quite high. What effects do these potions have? Are there any side effects? Apparently none. They raise corresponding attributes. Strength potions boost strength, speed potions boost speed, and potions come in tiers. Since these factors came from a Tier 1 fish monster, they can only make Tier 1 potions. Reports say Tier 1 potions cap attribute gains at 20. Tier 2 potions push that limit to 50. Players with average stats between 20 and 50 were known as Tier 1 augmented humans. Those between 50 and 100 were Tier 2 augmented humans. Below 20, ordinary humans, 20 to 50. Tier 1 augmented humans, 50 to 100. Tier 2 augmented humans, 100 to 200. Tier 3 augmented humans, 200 to 500. Tier 4 augmented humans, 500 to 1000. Tier 5 augmented humans. Gu Qingxuan's eyes lit up with longing for these potions. Constant augmentation would let her stop being so fragile despite her high damage output. Besides, many aboard the ship had yet to awaken superpowers. Augmentation could improve their combat ability, so they would not become liabilities. Lin Hao's current average stats sat around 70, qualifying him as a Tier 2 augmented human. So I'm already a Tier 2 augmented human. Gu Qingxian suddenly raised her voice. I nearly forgot to mention, Xiao Wanan's crew has been selling potions from the very start. It's highly likely their ship has someone with an ability that generates potions or crafting recipes. It dawned on Lin Hao. That was where their rival's original wealth had come from, selling potions. His own group earned resources by catching fish and through Chun Xiaoqiao's crate-opening ability. It drove home just how powerful resource support-type superpowers could be. That infuriating Xiao Wanan. We were once close, yet she wouldn't share even a single recipe. Gu Qingxian ranted to herself, stamping her foot every so often, looking utterly adorable. Their conversation drifted until they spoke of Su Min, Huang Tingting's best friend. Back when Gu Qingxian had been injured, Lin Hao had hidden what had happened, afraid it would devastate her. Once she recovered, she naturally noticed one person was missing from the crew. You made the right call. I was too soft-hearted before. I failed to make them grasp how dire our situation truly is. As for Su Min, I choose to forgive her. She may have been brainwashed by Huang Tingting back then, but these past few days I've watched her. She has changed a great deal. She works hard and no longer drags everyone down, though she barely speaks anymore. Lin Hao understood something vital. Leading a team or governing a group did not rely purely on violence and intimidation. What truly mattered was winning people's hearts. Even emperors dared not kill palace servants arbitrarily. An emperor was still flesh and blood, vulnerable to a blade. Both Lin Hao and Gu Qingxian grasped this truth. One example might serve as a warning, but those who still cause trouble ought to be exiled rather than killed outright. You're right. If she ever shows disloyalty again, or sides with people she used to know, we will simply cast her off. On this point, the two of them were in complete agreement. After touring several more rooms, each went off to tend to their own work. Lin Hao stepped out onto the deck. The ship had grown substantially, stretching nearly 60 meters in length. More quarters had been added. Bathrooms, lavatories, and kitchens had doubled in number. Every crew member now had their own private room. The old canopy had been replaced by a multi-level superstructure that insulated against heat far better. Time to go fishing again. Lin Hao settled in for a day of angling. Ever since the novice phase had ended, the fish Lin Hao reeled and kept growing bigger. Rare specimens weighing 300 jin were nothing special. Every cast brought in fish over 100 jin, and catches of 500 or 600 jin had become commonplace. It hardly felt like a good sign. Still, there was nothing to do but keep fishing. Lin Hao cast his line far out into open water. The upgraded ship's deck sat much higher above the waves, but his fishing rod had also improved. Each time he unlocked a new skill, the rod upgraded, though changes to its appearance were subtle. The first upgrade extended the line from 10 meters to 20. The second turned the line transparent, an extremely practical improvement. Fish bit quickly, one after another. Lin Hao, I got an amazing drop. Chen Xiaoqiao ran over excitedly. In her hands was a blueprint for a canning machine. A canning machine. That's fantastic, right? From now on we can preserve all your fish as canned goods. Shelf life will be much longer, and storage becomes far easier. You truly are our lucky star. Praise turned Chen Xiaoqiao's ears bright red. Far out on the horizon, a Tier 3 wooden ship drew closer toward their vessel. Captain, a ship dead ahead. The lookout Chen Pai reported to his captain Xian Hui. Xian Hui raised his spyglass. The distance was still too great. He could only make out a tiny speck, nothing more. Xian Hui roared in frustration. Damn Chen Kai. Yesterday we merely passed near their ship, and they looted huge amounts of our supplies. What rotten luck. Chen Kai had held first place on the initial ranking list, while Xian Hui's crew had been ranked 437th. They thought themselves fairly strong. They believed they could escape serious harm unless they fought against the top-ranked groups. When they spotted Chen Kai's ship yesterday, Xian Hui had decided to rob it. They had intercepted the vessel. To their shock, the #1 player sailed a mere Tier 2 wooden ship. They had thought it an easy target, only to suffer a crushing counterattack. Their rank plummeted from 437 all the way down to 871. They took nearly everything from us. We barely have drinking water left. We have to rob someone else. Karma be damned. Today you folks are just unlucky enough to cross paths with us. Chen Pai, close the distance. Across the endless ocean, a Tier 3 wooden ship gave chase to the Tier 1 steamship. Normally the gap would widen, yet Lin Hao's crew deliberately slowed down and turned their vessel to head toward their pursuers. Lin Hao and the others crouched on the deck and whispered over their plan. You do this, and I'll do that. You're so devious. I love it. I can't wait to see their faces. Xian Hui grew giddy as the distance shrank. His turn to rob others had finally arrived. Captain, something feels off. That ship doesn't look like any Tier 3 wooden ship I've seen. Xian Hui frowned in confusion. He snatched the spyglass. The distant ship was now the size of a peanut, and he could discern details. Namely, all that iron plating covering its hull. Dread crept over Xian Hui. Could he really be this unlucky? Several minutes later, he saw the ship clearly. This was no wooden ship at all. It was a steamship, towering a full story higher than his own vessel. Turn the ship around at once. It's a steamship, we can't fight that. Crew members hurried to adjust the sails and change course. But a wind-powered wooden ship could never outrun a steamship. They're trying to run. Stoke the fires harder. At the order, their steamship surged faster, reaching 18 knots. Having turned away from the wind, the wooden ship's speed dropped to a pitiful 5 knots. Staring at the huge, fast-moving vessel bearing down on them, Xian Hui's legs turned to jelly. Stay back. I surrender. He deeply regretted his greed. He should never have attempted robbery when his crew lacked strength. Lin Hao's ship pulled alongside. The two vessels separated by merely 30 meters. Lin Hao leaped from the deck and hovered in midair like an immortal. He spoke first. Friend, you approached us and now you flee. What exactly are your intentions? Xian Hui's composure shattered. That man could fly. How many S-rank superpowers did he possess? And nothing. We were just passing through. Xian Hui stammered in terror. Passing through? Well, as it happens, we have business with you. Hand over everything you have. Lin Hao pretended to stutter before booming the final demand. Xian Hui's heart sank and his knees buckled. He collapsed onto his deck, unable to accept reality. His ship shuddered violently, as though struck by a tsunami. Chen Pai at the bow had lost control out of fright. He watched Lin Hao make sweeping gestures, and towering waves rolled across the sea. What level of ability allowed someone to fly and stir up the ocean? Would they all die here? Overwhelmed by terror, Chen Pai fainted. Xian Hui was still conscious, yet could not stand. Repeated defeats had broken his spirit. Bang, bang, bang. Air blasts smashed through wooden planks, punching holes in the ship's railings. Lin Hao hovered aloft, one hand aimed straight at Xian Hui. Surrender your supplies, or the next strike will be aimed at your head. Xian Hui dragged himself shakily upright and held out the few blueprints he had left. He had hoped these might turn his fortunes around, yet now they were being seized. This is all we have. We got robbed by Chun Kai yesterday, and now you rob us. We won't survive this. Xian Hui had completely broken down, strands of his hair turning white from stress. Lin Hao felt no sympathy. So far, every unknown ship that drew near intended robbery. Lin Hao, my barrier won't hold for much longer. Hurry, Liang Cece called quietly from beside the railing. Lin Hao could not truly fly. He stood atop Liang Cece's nearly invisible energy barrier, which created the illusion of levitation. Hearing her warning, Lin Hao used his line to reel the blueprints over. We spare your lives this time. If you ever plan mischief again, we won't merely rob you. He wanted to seize the enemy ship's core, yet a full-scale battle held too many unknown risks. More importantly, Zhang Sini's precognition had warned of only a 3.7% chance of 0 casualties. That meant one of their crew would almost certainly die. Gaining those blueprints was reward enough. Back on their own deck, everyone surrounded Lin Hao and praised him. That trick was brilliant. They were shaking in terror. If someone truly possessed such powers, I'd be terrified too. Let's look at what blueprints we got. They unfolded them. Initial disappointment quickly gave way to excitement. Several early blueprints were worthless, designs for shoes, belts, trash cans, and the like. The final 2 held real value, armor and a motorcycle. Unfortunately, the armor offered limited protection, only 10 defense points. It was comparable to wearing several thick sweaters. It could block ordinary punches, yet offered little resistance against blades or bullets. Gu Qingxian handed the blueprints over to Chen Xiaoqiao. Craft 1 set for every crew member first. If materials remain, we can build extra to trade. Now that their vessel had become a steamship, the captain's system radar had also upgraded. Each morning they could tell whether they would reach a docking station that day and prepare accordingly. Today, however, no docking point lay ahead. That gave Gu Qingxian time to finalize cabin arrangements. The heat wave continued. This was only its 2nd day. The poorly ventilated cabins grew unbearably hot. Gu Qingxian could only stay inside for half an hour at a time before retreating to the meeting room to rest. From there she watched Lin Hao fishing out on the bow. How can he have so much energy? Doesn't the heat bother him? Lin Hao hardly minded the warmth. To him, it was a welcome challenge. Beneath a sunshade, under 52-degree heat, with scorching ocean winds blowing, He cast his rod and fought against deep-sea leviathans. It was a one-of-a-kind experience. Shirtless, sweat streamed over his tanned skin. He braced one foot against the railing, gripping the fishing rod hard, every muscle tensed. Beneath the waves, a massive shape loomed. A fierce tug-of-war unfolded, bending the fishing rod to a right angle. Locked in stalemate, Lin Hao lived out his own version of the old man and the sea. Santiago, your hands are not fast enough, not fierce enough. Blood stained the seawater. Lin Hao had won the struggle. As he reveled in his adrenaline rush, a system notification echoed inside his mind. Killed 1 tier, 1 sea wraith. Reward, 3 survival points. Lin Hao was stunned. Monsters had appeared out in open ocean. Everyone had assumed monsters only spawned at docking stations. This sea wraith shattered their belief that open waters were safe. He hurried back to the superstructure to convene a meeting. This was grave news. Gu Qingxian stared in disbelief at the sea wraith's corpse. Unlike grotesque fish monsters, it closely resembled an ordinary giant fish. Is this really a sea wraith? She did not doubt Lin Hao. She simply refused to accept what it implied. Run it through the monster disassembler, and you will know for certain. Gu Qingxian fell silent. Even in the sweltering heat, cold dread ran down her spine. Captain, could sea wraiths sneak up on us? What if they climb aboard while we sleep? Stop talking about it. You're scaring me. Captain, can I sleep beside you tonight? Fear spread through the meeting room. All eyes turned toward the 2 strongest members aboard. Lin Hao, what should we do? Gu Qingxian asked, her thoughts in disarray. Everyone stay calm. No one in the global chat channel has mentioned sea wraiths. That suggests they are extremely rare. We may simply have chanced upon one. Our hull is reinforced with steel, so sea wraiths will struggle to climb aboard. We should be safe. We can assign 2 crew members to stand watch each night in case of emergencies. We should also increase our sailing speed. We make progress and put distance between us and potential threats. Gu Qingxian nodded in agreement. Lin Hao is right. There is no need for panic. Even if sea wraiths climb onto our ship, we hold the advantage. So long as we avoid surprise attacks, they are nothing more than material sources. We ought to post this warning in the global chat channel so other players can prepare themselves. Lin Hao raised no objection. Warning others might save lives, and it would also build goodwill toward their captain. As soon as the message went public, the entire chat channel erupted. That's obviously a lie. Nobody else has run into these things, only you? You fished up a sea wraith? Those creatures weigh hundreds of gene and pull with thousands of gene of force. Nice tall tale. Exactly. Even with the starting issue rod, most people max out at a little over 100 gene. What fishing line could possibly withstand that strain? Are you using aircraft carrier arresting cables? Just another fake scare from fishing fanatics. Stop spreading nonsense and making everyone anxious. I don't think this story is entirely false. Look, the person sending the message is Gu Qingxian, ranked 12th on the leaderboard. Someone ranked 12th wouldn't play jokes on us. We'd better believe it and step up our defenses against the ocean. Lin Hao read the chat messages and felt somewhat speechless. If he had seen someone real in a sea demon weighing hundreds of gene, he would not have believed it either. It was simply that his earlier statement had been poorly phrased. Sister, is what Gu Qingxian said true? Xie Xianen held a piece of paper, absent-mindedly scribbling down a formula. Xie Wanan frowned slightly, then opened her private messages and sent a direct query to Gu Qingxian. Little Gu, is what you said the truth? Aunt Xie, believe it or not. Xie Wanan suppressed her rising anger. Miss Gu, this information is of great importance to us both. Please tell me the truth. Gu Qingxian smiled faintly. I preferred it when you were sharp-tongued and unyielding. See, demons do exist. I only discovered one. They are not traveling in packs. Besides, Aunt Xie, do you have the ability to hunt packs of sea demons? How many ability users do you have in your group? Girl Gu, mind your own business and stop prying. Their conversation ended there. That night, 13 sea demons secretly climbed aboard sailing wooden ships and attacked the sleeping crew members. Out of the 13 vessels, 7 were completely wiped out. The remaining 6 managed to beat back the sea demons, yet their crews still suffered heavy casualties. With more than half of their people injured or dead, the chat channel blazed with activity late into the night. Damned sea demons, sneaking onto ships to ambush us. Guys, sea demons are really real. I've been tracking the number of surviving vessels. Since nightfall, 7 ships have lost every single crew member within 1 hour. They must have been attacked by sea demons. No more sleep. Everyone get up and guard the ship. When the survivors woke the next morning and saw the flood of chat records, their heads throbbed with shock. What that person had said was actually true. Big shot. You're my idol. From now on, whatever you say, I'll believe it. Anyone who argues with you will have me to deal with. You're truly amazing. Do you have any more intelligence to share? We're all listening closely. Big shot. Do you need more crew? I'll hand my whole ship over to you. In an instant, Gu Qingshuan's account gained a flood of new followers. Gu Qingxian cared little about fame itself. What mattered was whether fame could bring her resources. Though she had made huge gains over the past 2 days, most of what she had traded away were materials. Food supplies remained extremely scarce. 29 mouths were not easy to feed. They consumed nearly 100 jin of food every single day. And for the first time, Gu Qingxian understood the saying, "You never know how costly running a household is until you run one yourself." A notice arrived from the captain system. Next stop, water park. Remaining distance, 27 nautical miles. Opening in, 1 hour 29 minutes and 34 seconds. Maximum docking vessels at station, 6. Station duration, 6 hours. What? 6 ships. Lin Hao was stunned. It was not only Lin Hao. Everyone else was equally shocked. What did it mean for a station to accommodate 6 ships at once? Each ship held roughly 40 people, so 240 people in total. If fighting broke out, even Chen Kai, ranked number 1, might not escape unharmed. Check the chat channel. Someone posted that another station allowed 4 ships to dock at the same time, and that was previously the record. This one has 2 more. Monitor, should we still go? Gu Qingxian fell into thought. 6 ships docking simultaneously was unprecedented. Yet according to the system, the more vessels a station permitted to land, the higher quality treasure chests it would spawn. Stations allowing 3 ships were guaranteed to spawn silver treasure chests. Would this doubled capacity station spawn a never-before-seen golden treasure chest? Lin Hao spoke up. Maybe everyone else is thinking the same thing. They might be intimidated by the other 5 crews and choose to stay away. Then we could walk right into an opportunity. And don't forget, our ship is ranked 12th. That rank alone might scare plenty of people off. Lin Hao wanted to go. To grow stronger, he had to fight for opportunities instead of letting valuable rewards slip away. Gu Qingxian also wanted to go. She aimed for first place on the leaderboard, and she would fight for that slim chance of obtaining a golden treasure chest. She said, "Since Lin Hao puts it that way, we shall dock at the station and observe the situation. We can pull back if danger arises." With their monitor and Lin Hao in agreement, the others dared not raise objections. Gu Qingxian asked Zhang Sini for her assessment. The danger level stood at 79%, with a mortality rate of 47%. A mortality rate of nearly half was terrifying just to hear. Given the high risk, Gu Qingxian decided to send only ability users ashore. Herself, Lin Hao, Lu Moyu, Liang Sisi, and Zhang Sini, 5 people in total. Lu Moyu had told Gu Qingxian that she possessed an ability, yet she was too embarrassed to reveal exactly what it was or how it functioned. Gu Qingxian did know, however, that Lu Moyu's physical prowess was nearly comparable to Lin Hao's. Lin Hao and the others pushed their ship to full speed to reach the station early. They wanted to make it clear to everyone else that this site was already claimed. So anyone hoping for an easy take should give up. Ships arrived. 1/6 whose ship is that fast? Have they unlocked propeller blueprints? Xiao Jiyu stared at the captain's system in shock. They had headed for the station the moment they received the notification, yet someone else had beaten them there. The station isn't open yet. Xiao Jiyu checked the timer. 17 minutes remained before opening. True, it's still closed. Make them row faster. If we miss the opening, they can all be thrown overboard to the fish. Yu Sheng bowed obsequiously, then grabbed a whip and hurried down to the cabin. A dozen people sat in the oar-driven compartment straining at the wooden oars. Starved for days, their bodies were gaunt and drained of energy. Fresh whip, scars crossed Yu Sheng's body. Blood had dried into scabs under the sweltering cabin heat. A young man in his early 20s sat at the front, swaying dizzily from the heat. To Yu Sheng, he looked like he was slacking off and dozing. Crack! The whip snapped, its sound echoing through the cramped compartment. Dare to slack off? Do you want to die? Blow after blow landed. The young man collapsed onto the floor and could not rise again. Useless trash. Take a good look, all of you. This is what happens to slackers. Yu Sheng kicked the fallen youth and spat on him. Row faster. G is counting on us to get there. Anyone who delays him won't get away alive. Yu Sheng left the compartment, grumbling. Damn, it's boiling in here. Xiao Wu, don't die? Don't leave me alone. Chen Ji, why hold me back? Let's fight that brute. Dying fighting would be better than suffering like this. The middle-aged man shook his head. You don't know what happened that night. He is not someone we can kill so easily. If it were that simple, we would never have ended up like this. We have to stay alive. Wait for someone powerful enough to defeat them. Believe me, that day will come, and then we can avenge our captain. Shortly after Lin Hao's group arrived, more ships showed up, 1 steam-powered vessel and 2 level 3 wooden ships. Anyone who could upgrade to a steam-powered ship held a rank within the top 50. Lin Hao kept a close eye on these crews. He stood at the bow scanning the surroundings when another ship cut directly in front of theirs. Its captain waved and called out enthusiastically, "Brother Lin Hao, it really is you." Chen Nan shouted excitedly. "Chen Nan." Lin Hao had not expected to run into him again only 1 day later. "Brother Lin Hao, I assume you're here for the treasure chest. What quality do you think the chest will be, with 6 ships competing?" Lin Hao clicked his tongue. "Who knows? What brings you here trying your luck?" Lin Hao had seen how weak Chen Nan's crew was. They had nearly been wiped out by a single second-grade fish demon. Where did they get their confidence? Simple greed, presumably. "Don't laugh at us, Brother Lin Hao. You know we took heavy damage in the battle the day before yesterday. We rested all yesterday and didn't dare dock at any station. Our supplies are nearly gone. If we don't land today, we'll starve. We're only here to look around. We don't dare aim for the treasure chest. Maybe we can pick up leftover supplies. This place is called Water Park, so there must be plenty of fresh water we can fill up on." Lin Hao did not fully believe him. The lure of a treasure chest was far too great. No one would be entirely free of desire. They would simply wait for an opening. Chen Nan suddenly asked, "Brother Lin Hao, are you selling fresh water?" Lin Hao grew wary. "Where did you hear that? We do sell a small amount of fresh water." Gu Qingshuan's captain account had been selling fresh water, using only a screen name. How had Chen Nan figured it out? Seeing Lin Hao's wariness, Chen Nan hurried to explain. "I've been studying the leaderboards these past days. 2 accounts have constantly fluctuating points. Most ships' points only drop slightly from consuming supplies, or jump sharply when they loot resources from stations. Constant up and down fluctuations like that only come from frequent trading. 2 accounts fit that pattern. Xia Wanan, who climbed from 18th to 7th, and Gu Qingxian, rising from 15th to 11th. Those are the 2 selling fresh water on the trade channel. I added your captain as a friend and can see real-time updates of your ship photo avatar. That's how I recognized you." Lin Hao was astonished by Chen Nan's reasoning and began to notice multiple loopholes within the system. "What do you want?" Chen Nan pulled out a blueprint and handed it to Lin Hao. "Brother Lin Hao, I only want to strike a deal with you. No ill intentions." Lin Hao unfolded it. It was a cannon blueprint. This cannon did not fire cannonballs. It launched huge nets, essentially an advanced fishing device. Chen Nan eagerly promoted the design. "Don't write it off as just for fishing. These nets are extremely sturdy. They can even capture second-grade fish, demons." Lin Hao's interest spiked. Could this device really do that? He read the blueprint description carefully. Chen Nan had spoken the truth. It could barely capture second-grade fish, demons, and would make catching ordinary fish trivial. "What are your terms?" Lin Hao asked bluntly. Chen Nan held up one finger. "I want 10% of all profits generated by this blueprint." No outright sale. This man was greedy. He knew Lin Hao's group had large-scale trading operations. An outright buy-out would earn him a one-time small sum, but a percentage would bring him continuous income. With their high trade volume, 10% would easily feed his crew every day. Lin Hao would never agree. They would provide all materials and handle all sales, yet give away 1/10 of the profit. It was a terrible deal. A cool female voice rang out behind Lin Hao. "I will offer you 20%, but only for the first 100 units produced. After that, the blueprint belongs entirely to us." Gu Qingxian had changed her clothes. Dresses were unsuitable for combat. She now wore armor and tight, fitting trousers, giving her a sharp, practical look. Seeing Lin Hao offer no objection, Chen Nan asked, "You must be Captain Gu." "I am Gu Qingxian. I make the decisions here. If you refuse full transfer of ownership after that quota, this deal is off." Chen Nan glanced toward Lin Hao for support, but Lin Hao waved his hand to show Gu Qingxian held full authority. That was one reason Lin Hao had never wanted to be captain. Business negotiations and polite haggling were the last things this fisherman enjoyed. That said, he was fully capable. During Gu Qingshuan's period of injury, Lin Hao had managed the ship excellently. Gu Qingxian always consulted him on major decisions to catch potential oversights. Chen Nan frowned. The terms fell short of his expectations, yet he wanted to build ties with Gu Qingxian and Lin Hao, and he needed whatever advantages he could get for the upcoming station challenge. He gritted his teeth and agreed. "Very well. Let's call it building a friendship. I hope we can cooperate more in the future." Gu Qingxian smiled. Naturally. As they concluded their talk, The sixth and final ship arrived at the station. Xiao Jiyu scanned the vessel tiers, and his arrogance faded completely. One steam-powered ship Lin Hao's, 3-level, 3 wooden ships, and a second steam-powered ship. 2 steam-powered vessels. Just wait. I will tear every single one of you apart. Xiao Jiyu clenched his fists. Up until now, he had bullied weaker ships and rarely encountered rivals of comparable strength. Faced with 5 crews on par with his own, he burned with frustration. Almost immediately after Xiao Jiyu's arrival, the station was about to open. True to its name, Water Park was an island built much like Venice, with barely any dry land. Vehicles could not be used here. As the protective glow surrounding the island faded, dolphins pulled small wooden boats up to each ship. Each tiny boat held roughly 10 people. We're supposed to board these small boats. Lin Hao looked around and saw dolphin-towed boats appear for every vessel, with people already climbing aboard. Gu Qingxian jumped down and landed steadily on one boat. Come on, these boats are safe. Lin Hao turned back to Qin Xiaoqiao. Keep a close watch on the other ships. If any of them make hostile moves, sail our ship away. Their small boats cannot catch up. Return to pick us up once the station event ends. That was why Lin Hao had ordered their ship to anchor far away from the other steam-powered vessel. The 5 boarded the small boat, and the dolphin pulled them deep into the island. Upon entering, they felt cool air. Gentle breezes carried the island's unique sweet fragrance. The island resembled a Disney theme park, complete with windmills, pirate ship rides, and roller coasters. The dolphin brought them to a platform and swam away with its boat. More than 50 people stood staring at one another, uncertain what to do next. From a nearby fountain, a mermaid emerged. She wore clothing made of seashells covering her body appropriately, swayed her graceful figure, and raised a conch shell to her lips. When her melody ended, she set down the conch and spoke with a human voice. Welcome to Water Park. The mermaid can talk. She's beautiful. Her voice sounds lovelier than a lark's. Xiao Jiyu stared greedily at the mermaid. I wish I could capture one and bring it back to my ship. After we grab the treasure chest, maybe we could go back for her. Yu Sheng made a grabbing gesture with both hands. Xiao Jiyu smirked darkly. You always think of good ideas. While everyone chattered, the mermaid spoke again in her clear, melodic voice. Look, everyone, we have prepared a great gift for you. All eyes followed her slender hand toward a fortress. At its highest point sat an enormous golden treasure chest, half the size of a car, cast entirely from gold. It shimmered brilliantly in the light. A golden treasure chest. The 6 groups stared at one another. This golden chest was 3 to 4 times larger than ordinary treasure chests. Everyone kept a wary eye on the others, treating every outsider as a potential foe. The rule to obtain the chest is simple. Follow the straight road ahead. Whoever climbs to the top of the fortress first claims it. After explaining the rules, the mermaid began to sing. The path forward was far from safe. The first obstacle was a 100-meter wide swimming pool filled with over a dozen sharks circling beneath the surface, frequently glancing toward the people on shore. Her song carried the rhythm of rolling ocean waves, light and cheerful. Lin Hao felt an unusual sense of relaxation, the fatigue of recent days melting away. While everyone pondered how to cross the pool, one of Xiao Jiyu's crew stared at the treasure chest atop the fortress, completely confident of victory. He spoke to Xiao Jiyu. Captain, I will fetch that chest for you. He leaped into the air and transformed into a giant rock, like bird. Instantly, 3 different crews opened fire, sniper rifles, crossbows, and energy bolts. The 3 groups acted in silent coordination, shooting the bird, type ability, user. Feathers scattered through the air, and blood dripped into the pool, drawing sharks to gather below. Xiao Jiyu roared furiously from the shore. Stop, you bastards. Put your weapons down. His shouts fell on deaf ears until the flying ability, user, was shot down. He crashed into the pool, thrashing briefly before sharks swarmed over him, tearing off his 2 to 3 meter long wings and sharp claws, devouring him completely. You monsters! I'll kill you all. Xiao Jiyu's eyes blazed with rage. This man had been his most trusted and capable subordinate. He lowered his head, growling, and a ball of fire grew larger and larger in his palm. Before open warfare erupted, Yu Sheng forcibly grabbed his wrist. Yu, this is not the time to fight. We can settle scores with them once we leave this place. Under the mermaid's gentle singing, Xiao Jiyu calmed down, though his gaze toward the others remained full of malice. Xiao Bai, I will avenge you. Xiao Jiyu was not foolish enough to take on 3 ship crews alone. He silently memorized his enemies. The 3 attacking groups lowered their weapons once Xiao Jiyu ceased his outburst. That was close. A real fight nearly broke out. Lu Muyu sighed in relief. Dangerous indeed. If that flyer had reached the fortress, the chest would have been theirs. Lin Hao, your reflexes were amazing. Your marksmanship keeps getting better. Lin Hao stared at his own hands. He had fired almost by instinct. He felt no guilt over killing that ability. User, as if the man had broken unspoken rules and Lin Hao had only upheld them. Shortly after this incident, one crew chose to withdraw. We want to leave. Send us back, they shouted toward the mermaid. The mermaid paused her song and lifted her soft hand. Exit lies through there. She pointed toward a small wooden house entirely covered in thick ivy, concealing everything inside. Anyone wishing to depart must leave through that cabin. Lin Hao glanced curiously at Chen Nan. He had not chosen to retreat. Gu Qingxian stepped forward, preparing to unleash her ability to force a path across the pool. Lin Hao stopped her at once. Let Liang Cixi do it. Using your ability like that will drain too much of your strength. He turned to Liang Cixi. Create a box-shaped barrier to hold 4 of us. I will stand on top and drive the sharks away. Liang Cixi understood his plan. She summoned a solid cube-shaped barrier to enclose the 4 others, punching a small hole for ventilation. Lin Hao pushed the barrier into the water, then jumped to stand atop its surface. He needed to keep the sharks at bay. From his tests these past days, Liang Cixi's barrier could only withstand several blows from second-grade C monsters before breaking. If no one drives the sharks away and lets them attack freely, even a first-tier C monster will have its energy barrier broken after multiple assaults. Once it falls into the pool, it will not survive. When they got into the water, the splashing water instantly drew sharks swarming around. They surrounded the energy barrier, ready to tear through the invisible obstacle for a feast. One shark leaped high out of the water and lunged straight for Lin Hao, only to be shot down mid-air by his gunfire. Killed one first-tier sea monster. Reward, 3 survival coins. Sure enough, these are no ordinary sharks. They're monsters. Lin Hao kept firing at the sea monsters in the water. He gathered the power of a full punch into a single finger, delivering far more force than a regular punch. However, when his attacks traveled through the water and hit the sharks, they only managed to drive them off. Among the 7-member group from the steamship, one man pulled a large quantity of iron blocks from his backpack storage space. The iron blocks shifted like building blocks in his hands, rapidly forming an iron bridge. The other 6 followed behind him and slowly crossed to the opposite bank. Xiao Jiayu's remaining 9 members jumped straight into the pool. Surprisingly, instead of attacking them, the sharks deliberately kept their distance. A male member from Chun Nan's team took off his flip-flop. White light glowed in his hands as the slipper grew larger. Once it was big enough for several people to stand on, the superhuman set it afloat on the water. The group stepped onto the enlarged shoe and crossed the pool. The last team built a tall scaffold on the shore. They tied ropes to the scaffold and shot the other ends across with crossbows, then crossed by sliding. Watching each group use their unique abilities, Lin Hao thought superpowers were truly fascinating. Their vessel had no oars. Gu Qingxian used her ability to push the water, creating reaction force to propel their energy barrier craft forward. They moved at a decent speed, among the fastest of the 6 teams. After driving off the sharks, Lin Hao checked on his teammates. Just then he spotted someone secretly diving underwater. The diver stuck a hand, warmer-like object onto the underside of their energy barrier, and green powder kept leaking out of it. The sharks that had been chased away spun around once the substance leaked out. Furious at the sight, Lin Hao cast his fishing rod into the water and hooked the diver precisely. Monitor. Gu Qingxian understood instantly. She activated her ability, using water to tear off the strange object. She then wrapped the green chemical, laced water, and hurled it straight at the diver. The man thrashed wildly but could not shake off the fishing hook. Trapped within the green substance, he became living bait. Only when a shark bit off a chunk of his flesh did he realize his end had come. He screamed and sank to the bottom of the pool. Lin Hao reeled in his rod. A shark came hooked along with it. Is that all you've got? On the other side, Chun Nan's squad also had one of those objects stuck to their makeshift craft. Under constant ramming from sharks, their vessel nearly capsized. The superhuman enlarged another flop, and pushed the contaminated slipper away, narrowly escaping disaster. From the shore, Xiao Jiayu watched another of his crew die. He stood glaring, seemingly ready to strike at any moment. A mermaid emerged from the viewing platform beside them. Holding a conch larger than a horn, she began to sing. Her song boomed with overwhelming power, surging like forest winds and towering tsunami waves. The 5 teams reached the bank at roughly the same time. Lin Hao could have arrived first, But the dirty trick from Xiao Jieyu delayed him, leaving him second, last to make sure. Lin Hao jumped on a land. Ahead, an octopus monster as tall as a two-story building lay waiting amid the rides. George, captain of the steamship, walked past Xiao Jieyu and approached Lin Hao with a proposal. Friend, I am George. That octopus monster ahead is clearly no ordinary sea monster. How about we join forces to get past this? George. Lin Hao rarely paid attention to leaderboard names, yet he knew the top-ranked figures. This George was no ordinary person. He ranked third on the board. He glanced at Gu Qingxian. After she nodded in agreement, Lin Hao accepted the offer without hesitation. After discussing tactics, the two teams agreed to attack from two sides. Who would draw the octopus monster's attacks would be left to chance. As the two teams advanced into the octopus monster's territory, Liang Cixi deployed energy barriers to block strikes from its tentacles, while George transformed into a diamond-skinned human, buying precious time for both teams. Just as they were about to climb onto higher ground, Xiao Jieyu smirked sinisterly and raised a fireball. All of you. The fireball slammed straight into the octopus monster's round head. Stung and screaming, the monster flew into a violent rage. Its 8 tentacles rained down blows like a raging storm upon the two teams. Damn it, you bastard. Lin Hao cursed. If not for that man's interference, they would already have climbed up toward the fortress. Rage burned hot inside Lin Hao. The girls behind him also lost their usual composure, their faces twisted with anger. George flew into a towering fury. Ignoring his teammate's safety, he charged straight for Xiao Jieyu. Seeing George rushing toward him, Xiao Jieyu shouted, "Come on! I've been waiting to take you down." He cupped his hands together and unleashed a fire dragon toward George. George did not dodge. He blocked with both hands and pushed through the flames until he stood right in front of Xiao Jieyu. Just as George threw a punch toward Xiao Jieyu's face, Yu Sheng beside Xiao Jieyu burst his clothes apart with surging power and roared, catching George's blow with both hands. That treacherous man is a bear, formed superhuman. The team that had crossed by building scaffolds was led by Qin Yuan. Their ship ranked above 100 on the leaderboard. While looting a supply station, they had found an archery club and obtained large numbers of archery weapons. Seeing the chaos, Qin Yuan planned to sneak past in the confusion. He waved his hand, and his men crept forward along the edge of the pool. "Stop them!" George shouted. His teammates raised their guns and forced Qin Yuan's group to halt. As the mermaid's singing swelled to its climax, the battle erupted into its most brutal phase. Four teams clashed within the pool, blood flowing freely as they attacked one another indiscriminately. Chen Nin stood on the bank, staring blankly at the fighting. He longed to join the fray, yet he knew full well his small group would only get slaughtered if they jumped in. Hatred for his own cowardice welled up inside him. He resented unfair fate, wondering why he had only been granted C rank. Anger was smothered by timidity. He could only pray on the shore. Die. All of you. Once you're all gone, all the rewards will be mine alone. His grip tightened around his sword, as if he might lunge and stab someone at any second. In one corner of the pool, Lin Hao's 5-person group was cornered by the octopus monster. The monster's massive tentacles crashed down. Lin Hao fired continuously, dozens of shots every second. Under his fierce fire, one tentacle was shot clean through and fell to the ground. However, the intense fighting drained most of his stamina, and he could not sustain another volley. Are they out of their minds? Fighting each other like mad dogs instead of dealing with the monster. Zhang Sini gestured at the people brawling all around them. Gone mad. Lin Hao pondered Zhang Sini's angry words. Something felt terribly wrong. When had their Gentle League branch secretary started shouting insults like this? Were they truly going insane, or had all of them lost their senses? A splitting pain shot through his head, making him grit his teeth in agony. As the octopus monster's second tentacle swung toward them, Lin Hao dropped to his knees, clutching his head and yanking at his hair. The tentacle was about to swat them away when Liang Cixi stepped forward, stacking layer upon layer of energy barriers in front of her. One barrier shattered, then another absorbed the impact. After 5 layers were broken in succession, the tentacle finally halted. Lin Hao lowered his hands and checked his status panel, his eyes widening as he looked toward the mermaid. Strength, 77. Stamina, 31 out of 84. Speed, 85. Sanity, 57/100. How did my sanity drop below 60? Once sanity fell below 60, a person entered an agitated state, prone to rage, irritability, and wild mood swings. Worse still, his sanity kept dropping. Below 40, one lost rational control, falling unconscious or descending into madness. If sanity dropped below 20, Irreversible brain damage would set in, leaving one permanently deranged or mentally broken. Lin Hao stared at the mermaid still blowing her conch and turned to Zhang Sini. Sini, what is the probability that the mermaid is a sea monster? Huh? Zhang Sini froze for a moment, then activated her ability to scan the figure. When the data returned, her jaw dropped in utter disbelief. 99.9%. Hearing that, they all turned toward the mermaid. It was actually a sea monster. None of them had considered this possibility. From the moment they arrived, the mermaid had guided their game, telling them where treasure chests lay. Subconsciously, everyone had treated her as the organizer and rule maker. Moreover, she was breathtakingly beautiful. Her features did not fit a monster at all. They had all been misled by first impressions. The second he heard the answer, Lin Hao summoned his fishing rod and cast the hook toward the mermaid. Instead of catching her, he snagged the conch. He reeled the rod in and snatched the conch away. The mermaid tried to flee down a fountain drain, but Gu Qingxian trapped her with her water manipulation ability. As the singing stopped, Lin Hao was relieved to see his sanity rise considerably, climbing from 57 to 63. That confirmed the mermaid was the source of the disturbance. While they dealt with the mermaid, the octopus monster launched its third assault. Liang Cixi had already exhausted much of her stamina, and her final energy barrier shattered. Seeing the tentacle bearing down on them, Lu Muyu bit her lip, drew a long spear, and stabbed at the octopus monster. Against the multi-ton monster, she was outmatched. One swing of its tentacles sent her flying. Only then did Lin Hao notice the ongoing attack. Veins bulged on his forehead. He drove his fishing rod into the mermaid and hurled her hard into the octopus monster. You three get the teacher away first. I will draw the octopus monster's attention. Xiao Jiayu soared through the air like an iron, armored warrior, jets of fire shooting from his hands. He cut in front of Gu Qingxian and the others. You think you can escape? Dot. A fire dragon materialized out of thin air, evaporating pool water in its path. Gu Qingxian shielded the three others behind her. She held both palms forward and drew water from the pool, conjuring a massive water dragon that bit down on the fire dragon. So you are a water-type superhuman. No wonder Chen's group suffered backlash from the lure. You were behind it all. You will pay for Chen's death. Flames blazed in Xiao Jiayu's hands as he poured more power into the fire dragon. It swelled in size, preparing to counterattack. Monitor, keep going. Though drained of strength, Liang Cixi cheered her on. Xiao Jiayu was also an S-rank superhuman, and his mastery over his power surpassed Gu Qingxuan's. Even though fire was disadvantaged against water, his precise control made the fire dragon highly agile. The water dragon kept shrinking as its water boiled away. Zhang Sini raised her pistol and aimed straight at Xiao Jiayu's head. Focused on battling Gu Qingxian, Xiao Jiayu caught sight of her out of the corner of his eye and saw the black muzzle pointed at him. No, stop, don't. He abandoned control of his fire dragon, letting it get torn apart by the water dragon. That did not save him. The bullet struck true. A single shot hit him squarely between the brows. Xiao Jiayu's eyes stayed wide open as he fell lifeless into the pool. Let's go. We need to leave quickly. Gu Qingxian pulled Zhang Sini along. Zhang Sini still stood with her pistol raised. The shock of taking her first life had left her mind numb. Lin Hao reeled in his fishing rod and crushed the mermaid beneath his foot. The instant she died, her fair skin, graceful figure, shimmering scales, and stunning looks all vanished completely. What lay under his foot was a hideous shark, like humanoid creature, filthy and foul, smelling like sewer waste. Killed 1 second, Tier Jiao mermaid. Reward, 35 survival coins. Damn it. So this thing was messing with our minds. Even after killing it, traces of the influence lingered. There must be more mermaids. Lin Hao spun around. The mermaid that had acted as gatekeeper was already gone without a trace. Singing still echoed, playing from some hidden spot all around them. He could not hunt down the hidden Jiao mermaids by himself. He decided to try to end the chaotic fight. Holding the dead Jiao mermaid aloft, he shouted at the combatants. Stop fighting. This is all the sea monster's doing. There is no need for us to kill each other. A few glanced his way, but most paid him no mind. His shout was like a stone tossed into the ocean, making no difference at all. The octopus monster reacted most directly. One of its tentacles swept hard toward Lin Hao. Lin Hao hooked the tentacle with his fishing rod and swung himself out of harm's way. If everyone insists on fighting, then let's kill everything here. Abandoning his attempt to reason with them, he hooked the edge of the pool with his rod and pulled himself up onto the shore. Down in the pool, the two teams kept exchanging brutal blows. George had torn all of Xiao Jiayu's remaining crew to shreds. Yet without George as their main fighter, his own team fell into a disadvantage fighting against Qin Yuan's group. Two of his men were riddled with crossbow bolts, and even their 98K rifle was shattered by arrows. Chen Nan's team stood watching from afar, unharmed. Still affected by the mental disturbance, every member tensed, eager to jump down and join the bloodshed. Chen Nan gripped his sword so tightly his palms bled. When Lin Hao slew the Jiao mermaid, Chen Nan had spotted another mermaid trying to slip away behind him. He threw a throwing knife marked with a flying thunder seal. This was his strongest technique, the instant, teleport flying, thunder slash. Normally his flying, thunder ability needed no mark, only allowing short forward slashes. This ultimate move cost massive stamina and could only be used once per day. After he struck the mermaid, the singing grew much fainter. Only a weak melody drifted down from the top of the fortress. Having killed Yu Sheng, George tried to rush back to aid his teammates, but an octopus tentacle smashed him hard against the pool wall. His diamond skin let him climb back, almost unhurt. He punched a hole straight through one of the octopus monster's tentacles. Lin Hao stared in shock at the display of power. That punch must have exceeded 100 strength points. Almost everyone Lin Hao had met, friend or foe, boasted high attack, but poor defense. George was the exception, with astonishing defensive capabilities. George fought like a walking engine of destruction, tearing chunks from the octopus monster's body. Blood and froth filled the pool. 6 of the octopus monster's tentacles could do nothing against him. For a moment it even tried to flee. Before it could get away, a fishing hook dropped from above and latched onto its head. With critical hit bonuses, Lin Hao fired multiple shots and finally finished off the third Tier C monster. Lin Hao had snatched the kill on impulse. Perhaps anger at George ignoring his warning, or leftover mental influence from the Jiao mermaids had spurred him on. Either way, the system notification chimed. Killed 1/3, Tier C monster, octopus monster. Reward, 70 survival coins. Regional channel announcement. First third, Tier C monster eliminated. Slayer, Lin Hao. First, kill bonus. Vessel obtains boost skill. Nitrous Rush LV.1. Instantly raise ship speed to 50 nautical miles per hour for 10 minutes. Cooldown, 24 hours. Great reward. Snatching that kill was well worth it. It explained why top, ranked players held their positions. They must have earned many first, kills and similar bonuses. This reward was richer than all the supplies they had gained on the previous island. Far from flying into a rage over the stolen kill, George simply stored the octopus monster's corpse in his storage space. The moment the octopus died, the entire water park collapsed into ruins. It was transformed into a flooded, abandoned human city. Garbage, moss, sewage, and corpses floated everywhere. The battling teams stopped fighting, staring in bewilderment at the drastic transformation. Moments later, hordes of zombies poured out from all directions. They jumped into the pool and surrounded the dozens of people present. The small green hut belonging to Chen Nan's team had been behaving strangely. As the zombies surged forth, more than 10 people ran out of it, the very members who had once tried to leave the team. Clearly, they had met a terrible end. Something had been wrong with that hut all along. Chen Nan swore loudly. Even dead, they won't leave me alone. What fools! He unleashed a flying thunder slash and cut down several zombies. The mental fog lifted from his mind. Damn, we can't go back that way. Nan, catch. A crew member stood atop a large pillar and tossed down a rope. Is this made from your underwear cord? Zombies closed in fast, leaving no time for jokes. Chen Nan grabbed the rope and climbed up. Lin Hao shot zombies one after another, earning steady streams of survival coins. His stamina had been low, but defeating the octopus monster with his fishing rod counted toward fishing experience. It raised his stamina cap and restored some of his energy. Brother George, we need to go? There are too many zombies. We won't make it if we linger. George's crew urged him. George glanced toward treasure chests on high ground, then at the golden treasure chest atop the fortress, and sighed helplessly. Zombies could not pierce his diamond skin, yet fighting Yu Sheng and the octopus monster had nearly drained his stamina. He knew staying any longer would get him and his men killed. Let's go, he agreed. A team member with superpowers built a simple iron boat, and they boarded to depart. Before leaving, George shot a look at Qin Yuan. I will remember this grudge, Qin Yuan. Qin Yuan's group was running low on arrows, though the arrowheads could be recovered and reused. While fending off zombies, they retrieved arrows left behind from their fight against George's crew. Zombies kept piling up. Only the shark pool kept them from being completely overrun. Qin Yuan's group gave up retrieving the remaining arrows. Retreat, he ordered. One man pulled out inflatable lifeboats, and they rowed away. Nan, I've got another pair of flip-flops here. A superhuman on Chun Nan's team took off his extra slippers. Chun Nan shook his head. He looked toward Lin Hao's group, eyes greedy for the treasure chests. Not yet. Some people haven't evacuated. They stood safely atop the enlarged iron pillar. From there they stabbed down at zombies below, gaining survival coins with every kill. Inside the fortress, the 4 girls climbed higher to escape the zombie horde. Badly injured by the octopus monster's tentacles, Lu Moyu had multiple fractures. She injected a healing agent, and her enhanced second-tier physique suppressed her wounds. Gritting through the pain, she pulled the other 3 upward. The fortress was already swarming with hidden zombies. It was all a trap laid by the Jiao, mermaids to hunt humans. Yet greed for the treasure chests overpowered their fear. Revolvers barked shot after shot, felling zombies. Yet more kept surging forward to fill the gaps. Piles of zombie corpses hemmed them into a tiny area protected only by energy barriers. Gu Qingxian poured out bottle after bottle of seawater without hesitation. When the water reached knee height, she unleashed a water tornado that swept zombies aside and tore open an escape route. Climb higher quickly. Several of them clung to the mindset of, we've come all this way, and were determined to take the golden treasure chest no matter what. After climbing several consecutive floors, they reached the final level. The treasure chest lay right behind the door, but seated in front of it was a handsome, imposing male merman. Adorned with shell ornaments, he carried an air of simplicity and quiet elegance. Reclining on an ornate sofa, the male merman played a flute. Just as the 4 girls fell under his spell, a fishhook shattered the window glass and shot inside. The hook pierced straight through his skull. The merman collapsed to the ground, reverting to his true Jiao, beast form. The magnificent fortress reverted to its original state. Moss, limescale, and insects were everywhere. Even the luxurious sofa the Jiao, beast had been resting on turned out to be a rotting, blackened piece of furniture. Armed with his fishing rod, Lin Hao had no intention of climbing the stairs. He hooked the 3rd and 4th floor railing with his rod, reeled it in, and hoisted himself upward. It worked even better than a grappling hook. No sooner had he climbed to the top of the tower than he saw another Jiao, beast disguised as a mermaid playing music. Furious, he flicked his fishing rod and struck the creature. Seeing the hideous true form of the Jiao, beast, Gu Qingxian and the others realized they had been bewitched. The Jiao beast's mental manipulation is terrifying, Gu Qingxian sighed. It's so hard to guard against. Lin Hao kicked the iron gate open, stepped onto the tower roof, and successfully claimed the treasure chest. The group stood atop the fortress. Hordes of zombies crowded the ground far below. Yet the ones outside the tower had been drawn away. Monitor, do you know about water landing? Water landing. Gu Qingxian felt as though she had heard the term somewhere before. Lin Hao wrapped one arm around 2 girls, carried one on his back, and held the 4th in his arms, gathering all 4 into a tight huddle. It's up to you, Monitor. Before Gu Qingxian could reply, Lin Hao leaped off the very top of the fortress. Gu Qingxian had not managed to recall what water landing meant, and they were already plummeting toward the ground. Instinctively, she summoned a mass of water beneath them to cushion their fall. The effect was immediate. They were soaked, but none of them sustained serious injury. Let's go. Lin Hao pried open a door, jumped into the water from the rear of the fortress, and led the 4 girls away. Nan, Ji, the treasure chest has been taken. The girl who could locate treasure chests sent Chun Nan a report. The moment Lu Moyu seized the chest. But there is another treasure chest in the sewers. Getting it will require diving. Chun Nan's spirits lifted. He had not obtained fresh water during this run, yet he had gained a Jiao, beast corpse, and more than 100 survival credits, which already satisfied him. Now another surprise had turned up. Good. Draw me the map. Stay where you are. I'll go down and retrieve the chest. Lin Hao ran out of the water park. Following his earlier orders, the rest of their group had already boarded the ship and set sail, circling around the island. After drifting on the open sea for several minutes, Lin Hao spotted their vessel. It's the Monitor and the others. Chen Xiao exclaimed. Steer over quickly. Lin Hao and the 4 girls boarded the ship safely. You're all badly hurt. Chen Xiao looked at their wounds, her voice full of concern. Take them below to rest. Also, do any of you remember which direction that last wooden ship fled? Lin Hao did not intend to let this chance slip. Its captain and main ability, users were all dead. Its ship core must not fall into other people's hands. Oh, that ship. I remember. It was the first one to leave. Right after it departed, I pulled away from the station as you instructed and began circling the island. Chen Xiao pointed toward a certain direction. It headed that way. They left in a terrible hurry, like something catastrophic had happened. And catastrophic it had been, now that their captain was dead. Everyone sit tight. I'm going to push for maximum speed. Ah! Lin Hao activated his boost skill, nitro acceleration, instantly ramping the ship's speed up to 50 nautical miles per hour. 1 hour of travel at this speed equaled 5 hours for a Tier 3 wooden ship. Xiao Jiayu's vessel had been gone for no more than an hour and a half. Once the boost faded, they drifted across the endless ocean for another dozen minutes. Could we have lost them? Out on the open sea, locating a single ship based only on a vague heading was extremely difficult. Just as Lin Hao was about to give up, he spotted a wooden ship adrift on the waves. Its deck was empty. No one stood at the helm, and no one rowed. Is this a trap? An empty ship appearing out of nowhere felt deeply suspicious. Beneath the empty ship's hull, a tense scene was unfolding. The moment Xiao Jiayu died, the ship's system sent out an alert. Captain deceased. Please select a crew member to take command immediately. When the crew heard the system announcement, despair washed over them. In their eyes, their former captain had seemed invincible. He had fought other ships single-handedly, burned rival vessels to ashes, and captured dozens of prisoners. Yet the system notification could not be fake. Worse still, the newly appointed captain opened the captain interface and saw their crew count dwindling, leaving only those trapped aboard. He ordered the sails raised and kept the truth hidden, especially from the prisoners rowing in the hull. Halfway through their voyage, the men below grew suspicious. The usual Yusheng had not shown up. There were no celebrations of victory, and no new captives had been brought aboard, none of their usual patterns. Only one explanation made sense. Their captain's group had likely been killed at the station by another ship's crew. Chun-Ji, shouldn't we rebel? That creep Yusheng still hasn't shown his face. Only low-level goons are keeping watch. Something has clearly gone wrong on their end. What would we rebel with? Zhou Qin glanced at the haggard men behind him. Most were emaciated. Even now, one of them with a machete could force us to hold back. We have to wait. He could only wait, hoping the pursuing ship would bring some kind of reprieve. The rowers stopped working. With only sails to drive it, the ship crept along at less than 10 nautical miles per hour. The new captain had already warned them. Instead of rowing, the prisoners gathered with their oars, ready to fight for their lives. Some crew members tried to reason with their captain. Captain, why don't we just lock the hull door and let them starve down there? We can't. If those prisoners kill us, other ships will hunt us down. They'll seize our supplies and force us into slavery just like them. I would rather die than let that happen. We have to escape. But sails alone are too slow to outrun a steam-powered pursuer. We need their rowing power to gain speed. The new captain picked several men, armed them, and prepared to subdue the prisoners below. If necessary, they would make an example of one to force the rest back to work. 10 men had left with Xiao Jiayu, leaving 21 crew members on board. 21 against 12 should have been a decisive advantage, and the crew had weapons. Yet the prisoners in the hull were desperate men. No one wanted to provoke people who had nothing left to lose. Back when Yusheng had been there, his beast transformation ability turned him into a giant bear impervious to ordinary blows. And he had easily cowed the captives. The remaining crew were ordinary humans. Most had spent their days in offices and had no stomach for brutal combat. They froze in the shelter, too afraid to go below, and no one steered the vessel. The ship drifted like a bottle cast into the sea. The roar of Lin Hao's steam-powered ship cut through the air as it drew alongside. Someone finally stepped onto the deck to investigate. Captain, what do we do? A steam-powered ship is approaching. Fight them. Go down and use the prisoners as hostages. If they come any closer, we'll kill them all. The captain was gambling, betting that the crew of the steamship still possessed compassion for strangers. But he underestimated the desperation of the prisoners in the hull. And he underestimated Lin Hao's speed and resolve. Lin Hao hooked his fishing rod onto their sail and used the recoil from reeling in to leap onto the wooden ship. When Lin Hao landed on deck, the crew were still locked in a standoff with the prisoners below. Spotting Lin Hao, they backed against the hull door and brandished their weapons. Don't come closer. We'll attack you. The new captain's threats came out shaky. His weapon trembled in his hands. Seeing their fear, Lin Hao struck them down one by one. Not a single one surrendered. He fought his way down to the hull and threw open the door. The 12 prisoners stared at the carnage above and surrendered at once. You are not part of this ship's crew. No. Our original captain died in battle. Our ability. Users refused to surrender and were all slain. Our own ship was burned. They imprisoned us here as slaves to row for them. Several of our brothers have already perished from the sweltering heat in that closed hold. As he spoke, tears streamed down his face, and the other captives began weeping too. Lin Hao faced a dilemma. Killing the cruel crew had weighed on him not at all, yet these were suffering survivors. They were gaunt, their skin marked with pale discoloration from constant sweat, injuries that could not be faked. Lin Hao was trying to figure out where to relocate them when an idea struck him. All right, I'll find you a new captain. You will serve under him. A mix of joy and disappointment crossed their faces. They rejoiced that their torment was over and that they had met someone merciful. Yet they were disappointed they could not join Lin Hao's crew. This man was tremendously powerful, far stronger than their old captain. They suspected he might even be the one who had killed Xiao Jiayu. Serving under him would have given them hope of survival. Still, they dared not complain. That he had saved them and found them a new home was already a great kindness. Lin Hao brought them over to his own ship and assigned them a room to rest in. Exhausted and overheated for days, they could finally lie down, and electric fans blew cool air over them. Chun-Ji, they have electricity. Only after feeling the fans did they register the devices. Electric fans alone were not unheard of, but having working fans was extraordinary. Electric power meant this crew had access to modern electrical technology. Perhaps they even had air conditioning. Even Xiao Jiayu never had electricity. Who exactly are these people? Zhou Chen muttered to himself. Chun-Ji, what if we beg him to let us stay? Yeah, he seems decent. Maybe if we plead, he'll keep us. Also, almost everyone on this ship is female. Wait. Apart from him, I haven't seen a single other man. He might be the only male aboard. Zhou Chen cut them off sharply. How dare you? Discussing the crew's private business on their ship? If he sees us as a threat, he could kill us all. His words silenced the others. Stop entertaining such thoughts. That he rescued us and found us a new place is already a stroke of fortune. Still, Zhou Chen harbored doubts. Were they truly being given a fresh start, or were they merely being traded to another set of masters? Gu Qingxian messaged Chun Nan and told him everything that had happened. Would you be interested in taking on several new crew members? Chun Nan hesitated. Extra hands meant more labor and fighting strength, yet each new mouth needed food. Their supplies were limited. Captain Gu, our ship is small. We cannot afford to feed so many people. We found no fresh water at this station. Our water stores are nearly exhausted. We can sell you water at a 20% discount, 50% discount, 40% discount. Deal. Lin Hao entered the captain's cabin and retrieved the wooden ship's core. Gu Qingxian had told him it would be there. Without its core, the vessel became an ordinary wooden craft, stripped of its system and upgrade functions. That allowed Lin Hao to store it in his inventory. He disassembled the ship by himself. Only connected objects counted as a single item for inventory storage. Otherwise, the sheer volume of supplies aboard would have required countless inventory slots. Once stored, he let the system finish breaking the hull down, saving him manual labor and yielding large quantities of lumber and miscellaneous ship materials. Lin Hao returned to his own ship and handed the spoils over to Gu Qingxian to organize. He did not need to concern himself with distribution. How did things go with Chun Nan? They agreed. We're selling them water at a 40% discount. That's trivial. Did the rescued prisoners cause any trouble? They've been quiet. But Chen Xiaoqiao just told me. The so-called golden treasure chest we found is actually a silver, ranked 1. What? Lin Hao hurried over to check. How had a golden chest turned silver? He stared in disbelief. The chest's gilded finish was peeling off. It had merely been dyed on the surface. The Jiao beasts were scammers. Those Jiao beasts, all three of them. Gu Qingxian spoke up. One sows apathy and sloth, one stirs rage and fury, and one stokes greed. They correspond to 3 of the 7 deadly sins. We must be wary of their mental abilities. They are all mental attacks. My defensive shield cannot block them, Liang Sisi said glumly. Post intelligence on Jiao beasts to the public chat channel. Let them feast on greed and rage for now. One day we will hunt every last one of them down. Lin Hao's gaze fell on the loot inside the chest. It held a massive machine. The chest itself was nearly half the size of a car, and the machine was comparable in scale. Seeing Lin Hao studying it, Chen Xiaoqiao explained. It may be from a silver chest, but this machine is no ordinary piece of gear. It has an official rating. A rating? Yes. This is a C rank item with special properties beyond ordinary equipment. First, it is an engine, a hydroelectric generator. Its power output surpasses 100 gasoline generators combined. Their previous generator had barely powered 2 air conditioning units plus a couple of water purifiers, with very low efficiency. This is incredible. Lin Hao's eyes lit up. This hydroelectric generator can supply power for the entire ship. We can run air conditioning around the clock, keep the water purifiers operating non-stop, and boil water and cook meals without burning firewood. He immediately headed for the propeller assembly to install the hydroelectric generator. Once installation was complete, Lin Hao sorted through their spoils. He decomposed the two Jiao beast corpses and obtained vials of mental factor and strength factor extracts. Between the 5 of them, they had slain more than 100 zombies, plus 2 Jiao beasts and a Tier 3 octopus monster. This run earned them over 300 survival credits. Breaking down the Tier 3 wooden ship yielded more than 20,000 units of lumber, 700 units of iron, large amounts of cloth and plastic, plus all the captured food, fresh water, and weapons. Most importantly, they had obtained a Tier 3 ship core, which gave them another chance to awaken an ability in one of their crew members. Their losses had been minimal. Only 1 healing potion and dozens of bullets expended, alongside physical fatigue. Among the 5, only Lu Moyu had sustained severe injuries. The rest bore light wounds, or none at all, and would be fit for duty after some rest. Lin Hao helped Lu Moyu back to her quarters to recover. The ship sailed back to the water park station to meet Chen Nan. Chen Nan's group had only just emerged from the site. Their clothes were still stained with blood. Chen Nan reeked of rot and sewer stench, noticeable even from a distance. Lin Hao led the 12 rescued prisoners across to Chen Nan's ship. Is that all of them? Chen Nan stared at the gaunt, sallow-faced group, his expression one of clear worry about feeding them. It was an awkward position for him. Lin Hao had saved these people, yet Chen Nan would be responsible for sustaining them. Brother Chen Nan, they look thin now, but they fought fiercely when pushed. They will make capable crew members in time. Chen Nan studied the group and fixed his gaze on their leader. The man was in his early 40s, with the vigor of someone much younger and the weight of long experience etched into his features. What is your name? Chen Nan asked Zhou Chun. Zhou Chun. Zhou Chun. A good name. From now on, you serve under me. I am Chen Nan. Nan Ji. They answered in unison. Their voices were not loud, but full of resolve. Seeing them settle in, Lin Hao took his leave and returned to his own vessel. Ever since upgrading to a steam ship, the rooms on both sides of Lin Hao's quarters had been used for storage and sound-insulated private space. Every haul of scavenged goods and every trade was logged, and resources were distributed systematically. The supplies stored in his quarters included not only what Lin Hao had scavenged at stations, but also goods acquired via the trading channel, all carefully managed by Gu Qingxian. Lin Hao carried 2 large buckets of purified water and rations back to check on Lu Moyu. Temperatures had already climbed above 50 degrees Celsius, and it was not yet the hottest hour of the day. 2 liters of water per person was the bare minimum daily requirement. Both Lin Hao and Lu Moyu were Tier 2 enhanced humans. Their enhanced physical recovery came with far higher food and water consumption. Have something to eat. Lin Hao tore open a pack of biscuits and held it out for Lu Moyu. Lu Moyu opened her mouth to accept the food. Their new bond still felt surreal to her. What had begun as a way to strengthen her powers had grown into genuine attachment. Are you all right? Your forehead feels hot. I'm fine. The healing potion is still taking effect. Lin Hao nodded, unaware of her inner thoughts. Lu Moyu had multiple bone fractures and needed rest, so they skipped training. After she had eaten some snacks, Lin Hao left her to recuperate and headed for the meeting room. A dozen people moved busily inside, occupied with endless tasks. They had brought back enormous quantities of loot. Everything needed cataloging. Some would be traded away, some used for ship upgrades, and food had to be rationed fairly for every person. The workload was immense. Fishing was out of the question for now. Even though Lin Hao could endure extreme heat, fishing would make him sweat heavily and waste valuable water resources. Besides, he needed to avoid disturbing Lu Moyu's injuries. He resolved to go night fishing once temperatures dropped after dark. For the time being, he stayed in the air-conditioned meeting room and browsed the public chat channel. Noted down everything Captain Gu said. Jiao beasts? Mermaids? I don't buy it. Sea mutants all trace back to known pre-disaster creatures. What did Jiao beast mutate from? This sounds completely made up. Quit nitpicking. When has Captain Gu ever lied to us? Jiao beasts wield powers tied to greed, wrath, and sloth. Could there be others embodying the remaining 4 deadly sins? I think that's possible. Agreed. They were still discussing the intelligence about the mermaid that Gu Qingxian had mentioned, yet Lin Hao could not find anyone posting messages about having the same experience. Everyone was leeching off information and keeping things to themselves. Gu Qingxian walked over in a white dress. Have you been following the trade situation for potions? Lin Hao shook his head. That had nothing to do with his duties, so why would he pay attention to it? Gu Qingxian opened the trade channel and pulled up an anonymous seller's shop. The shop sold nothing but potions of all kinds. There were grade 1, grade 2, and even 1 or 2 grade 3 vials. Yet the prices were absurdly high, and they could only be bought with survival coins or blueprints. Lin Hao took a close look at the potion prices. Even the cheapest grade 1 speed potion cost 50 survival coins. The most expensive grade 3 defense potion went as high as 2,000 survival coins. Even the priciest grade 1 potion, the strength potion, sold for 100 survival coins, and it was only available in limited stock at irregular intervals. Whoa, are they robbing people? Lin Hao admitted the potions were powerful and could grant an ordinary human strength comparable to that of an ability user, but the asking price was far too steep. The main ingredients for these potions came from various factors extracted from monster corpses. Right now, monster corpses had no use besides being broken down for materials. That meant the raw materials for the potions were practically worthless, nothing more than waste repurposed. A single vial selling for 100 survival coins. It might as well be outright robbery. Gu Qingxian sighed. This shop belongs to Xie Wanan and her group. Right now, they are the only ones in the entire regional channel who possess the formula and can craft these potions. They formed a monopoly. If we don't break this monopoly, the prices will probably keep rising. Would anyone actually buy them at those prices? Plenty of people, actually. I've run the numbers. For someone with 5 points of strength to raise it all the way to 20 using strength potions, they need at least 10 vials. The first 5 give the best boost, pushing strength up to around 15 points. After that, the effect drops off sharply. That drives many people to grab those first 5 vials first. Once their strength rises, they gain more means to earn resources. The potions are completely in short supply. Lin Hao could not help but marvel at how many well-off people there were. With their current stock of survival coins, they could probably afford 7 or 8 vials at most, and even that hardly felt worth it. Have you thought of any way to fix this? Lin Hao assumed that since Gu Qingxian had brought up the problem, she must have some kind of solution. But Gu Qingxian shook her head and wore a bitter smile. I haven't. I even offered Xie Wanan a motorcycle blueprint in exchange for the strength potion formula. She flat out refused, no matter what. I would refuse too. Once a formula gets leaked to the public, it loses all its value. Their only chance lay within the chat channel. They would keep posting trade offers, hoping anyone who obtained the formula would reach out to them. Right now, the goods they had for sale were armor low defensive bonus, so few buyers. Motorcycles limited by gasoline and extreme heat. Sales remained low, though they held great long-term potential. Fresh water sold extremely well, perpetually in short supply, yet output was too low for large profits. Solar, hydro dual, purpose water purifiers their best-selling item. Even with Gu Qingxian limiting purchases to 2 per ship, they earned massive amounts of resources every day. Now that they had hydroelectric generators, their fresh water output would increase substantially, bringing in higher profits. Besides these items, they were also preparing to sell net firing cannons. Night fell. Lin Hao stood alone on the ship's bow fishing. Even at night, the temperature stayed above 40 degrees Celsius. The water purifiers had been stowed away in storage slots by assigned crew members overnight to prevent sabotage, leaving Lin Hao free to fish undisturbed. He took a discarded fishtail as bait. Its blood quickly drew large creatures from the ocean depths. Moments later, the fishing rod tugged violently. Finally, a big catch. Lin Hao was overjoyed. This was his first large fish of the night. Few people understood the thrill of wrestling with a huge fish. One had to pull and slack the line with perfect timing. Landing 100-gene beast could take hours. If the fish panicked, it could easily snap the line. Lin Hao was not too worried about that. A few bullets would settle it. Yet tonight brought unexpected trouble. Even after several shots, the fish still thrashed, putting Lin Hao on edge. Could it be another sea monster? He fired a few more rounds. At last, the pull on the rod went still. Lin Hao hauled the creature aboard with his landing net. It was an enormous fish, roughly 200 gene in weight. Its head was disproportionately large, its skull dense, and its scales so thick that bullets could not pierce them. No system kill notification popped up, confirming it was merely an ordinary fish. Lin Hao had never heard of such a creature before. Had he simply lacked knowledge? Or was this a native species of this world? Had their ship drifted into waters inhabited by these fish? Lin Hao could not find answers to his questions. He cast his line again, planning to fish more to verify his guesses. 2 hours slipped by. It was already midnight. Lin Hao was worn out. Hauling the landing net drained far too much stamina, and he could barely keep going. At that moment, Li Muzi wheeled out one of the net firing cannons. Lin Hao, I need to talk to you about something. Lin Hao frowned. Li Muzi was supposed to handle statistics and trade data analysis. Why had she come to find him? What's up? When it comes to sales, I know next to nothing. Li Muzi clicked her tongue. I'm not asking you to sell anything, but selling this device needs your help. That sounded odd. Li Muzi went on. This afternoon we started selling the net, firing cannons, but the response has been terrible. Hardly anyone is buying. I've read people's comments. Most buyers worry the cannon will not perform as described. They fear sea monsters will break free of the nets, or that once hauled onto the deck, the monsters will tear through the nets and create far greater danger. Lin Hao understood immediately. So the problem is no one has seen it work. There is no real, world proof, so nobody wants to buy it. You want me to field test the product? Li Muzi smiled and nodded. You catch on fast, Lin Hao. Use the system recording function to capture footage of you catching sea monsters with it. Once everyone sees it works, orders will pour in. The captain said you will get major credit if you pull this off. Very well, but I can't guarantee we will get a chance to actually use the cannon on a monster. I have faith in you, Lin Hao. I'll wait for your good news. Li Muzi headed back toward the ship's superstructure, leaving Lin Hao alone to examine the cannon. It resembled the cannons from fishing, hunting games. Its nets were woven from high-grade fibers, not ordinary cloth. Beyond the nets, there were many specialized components, custom lead weights, buoy markers, and fine, iron grappling hooks, all crafted from high-quality materials. The high cost of materials was probably one reason sales were so poor. With the cannon ready, Lin Hao resumed fishing, eager to test their own merchandise. Soon another large fish bit the hook. Holding the fishing rod in one hand, he swiveled the cannon, took aim, and fired. He reeled the net back. As it drew near, grappling hooks bit firmly into the fish's scales. The net tightened, wrapping the entire creature securely. Everything went so smoothly that Lin Hao was stunned. With this cannon, he would not need to rely so heavily on gunfire to subdue catches. It saved a great deal of effort. He hauled the fish aboard and inspected it. Most of its body remained intact. The grappling hooks stayed embedded in its scales, showing no sign of slipping free even after being brought onto the deck. Still, this was only a regular large fish, not a sea monster. The demonstration held little persuasive power. Lin Hao cast his line again. 2 more hours passed, yet no sea monsters took the bait. Exhaustion overwhelmed him. He had to call it a night and leave the test for the next day. Early the next morning, the 7th day since they had arrived in this doomsday survival world, Lin Hao was jolted awake by the clatter of people moving supplies. He had slept in the conference room. Most of the young women aboard also rested there, since besides Lin Hao's quarters and the captain's cabin, only this room had air conditioning. You guys are up awfully early. Lin Hao mumbled groggily. He estimated he had only slept for about 5 hours. It's not that early. We don't have a station stop today, but other ships do. People rush to buy supplies right before docking. A lot of trades happen first thing in the morning. That gave Lin Hao a key piece of information. With no station visit scheduled, he could catch a little more sleep. He put earplugs in and curled back down to rest. 2 or 3 hours later, he was shaken awake by rhythmic tremors. What's going on? An earthquake? Lin Hao asked. Out on the open ocean, earthquakes could barely be felt. Only tsunamis would register. The shaking came from a girl beside him, Su Xinxin. She had previously helped Li Muzi compile data on down jackets. Gu Qingxian had since assigned her other statistical work, though Lin Hao did not know exactly what it entailed. Su Xinxin, what's wrong? As Deputy League Branch Secretary and the only man on the ship, Lin Hao felt responsible for checking on the women's mental well-being. Woo, why do so many people have to die? Can't everyone just stay alive? Lin Hao was confused until he glanced at the notebook she held. Everything became clear. Day 4 of the apocalypse, 8 o'clock. Remaining ships, 9,211/10,000. Remaining population, 378,726. Day 5 of the apocalypse, 8 o'clock. Remaining ships, 8,781/10,000. Remaining population, 327,220. Day 6 of the apocalypse, 8 o'clock. Remaining ships, 7,891/10,000. Remaining population, 298,717. Day 7 of the apocalypse, 8 o'clock. Remaining ships, 7,072/10,000. Remaining population, 268,257. From her notes, Lin Hao saw she had begun logging statistics the previous day. She had recorded population shifts throughout every time block. 8 o'clock. Remaining ships dropped from 8797 to 8781. Remaining population fell from 327,389 to 327220. 9 o'clock. Remaining ships dropped from 8781 to 8762. Remaining population fell from 327,220 to 327007. She also marked time intervals where the population decreased by more than 1,000 people. Most of these occurred between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m., the usual docking station hours. Sometimes 1,000 people vanished every 30 minutes, sometimes every 10 minutes. There was no fixed pattern. Her final entry was timestamped 10:57, just 1 minute prior. The population had dropped by 2178 people within 5 minutes. To Lin Hao, those notebook entries were just rows of numbers. To Su Xinxin, each digit represented real, living human beings. When she watched the system counter slip from 267471 to 265293, she saw 2,178 lives snuffed out. Every time she updated her logs, she thought of all those lost souls, and her emotions finally crumbled. Yet this was the harsh reality of the apocalypse. Lin Hao tried to comfort Su Xinxin, but it did little good. He told her to step away from her work and try to calm herself down. Lin Hao headed for the captain's cabin to report what had happened to Gu Qingxian. Her mood sank as well. I've tried so hard to help everyone, but so many still die every day. Lin Hao heard hoarseness in her voice. He too wished he could save more people. Lin Hao had been raised by his late grandfather and had no other close blood relatives. Most people in this regional channel came from Jiangxing. Many of Lin Hao's classmates, friends, and teachers were among them. The latest drop in population might well include his former roommates or acquaintances. The others on board also had family and relatives scattered across the channel. Any number of those lost lives could be someone they cared about. That uncertainty weighed heavily on all of them. Qingxian, you have done everything you could. Don't blame yourself so much. At Lin Hao's words, Gu Qingxian threw herself into his arms and wept. I want to save them, but I truly have done all I can. Truly. Lin Hao froze, awkwardly holding her and gently stroking the back of her head. It's all right. You have done your best. No one could fault you. Are you taking advantage of me? No. I'm just trying to comfort you while you're upset. Gu Qingxian did not pull away. She nuzzled against his chest. They stayed locked in an embrace until Qingxian, my injury. Lu Moyu pushed open the cabin door. The two froze where they stood. Should I have knocked first? Lin Hao quickly stepped back and stood up straight. I was just reporting Su Xinxin's situation to the captain. Nothing else happened. Please don't misunderstand, teacher. Lu Moyu smiled faintly. I haven't said a word. Why are you so flustered? Gu Qingxian wiped her tears with a handkerchief and composed herself. She turned to Lin Hao. Assign Su Min to take over Su Xinxin's work. We can also observe whether her mindset has improved. Su Min was Huang Tingting's best friend. She had once been influenced by Huang Tingting's radical views, though she had never gone to the same extremes. Gu Qingshuan's plan was clever. It resolved Su Xinxin's breakdown while giving Su Min a chance to prove she had changed. Did you need something else, teacher? Gu Qingxian asked. No. I just came to tell you my injury has healed. It seems I interrupted something. Lu Moyu grinned, took Lin Hao by the hand, and led him out of the room. Lin Hao's heart raced. Was she upset? Aren't you bothered by what you just saw? Do you take me for that petty? She was only crying in your arms, nothing more. It was plainly an emotional breakdown, not some romantic entanglement. Lu Moyu slipped her arms around Lin Hao's neck and kissed him. I am not unreasonably jealous. You are the only young man aboard, surrounded by so many young women. I cannot keep you all to myself. Perhaps I should let others share your support as well. Lin Hao looked earnestly at the girl before him. In his heart, she was no longer merely his girlfriend. She felt like his betrothed wife, firmly rooted in his heart. I owe you a proper reward. Lin Hao lifted Lu Moyu into his arms and headed toward his quarters. I can get out of bed now, but my body hasn't fully recovered. Too much exertion would reopen my wounds. Lin Hao set her down gently once they reached his room. They rested together and talked for a long while, restoring their energy. Their physical constitutions both improved noticeably. Suddenly Lu Moyu sat bolt upright, startling Lin Hao. It's gone. It's really gone. What's gone? Did something happen? I've awakened my ability. Lin Hao exhaled in relief, yet a flicker of worry crossed his mind. He feared it might be some strange ability that would place extra strain on him. You don't look happy. Are you looking for a fight? Of course I'm happy. To celebrate your new ability, I'll go hunt down mutton and make hot pot for you. Lu Moyu pressed him back down onto the bed. I know exactly what you are imagining. Rest assured, this ability is perfectly ordinary, almost strangely so. My ability is called assimilation of non-action. Watch closely. Lu Moyu placed one palm over the old scarring on her abdomen left by debris from the octopus monster attack, and her other palm over unscarred skin nearby. Green light glowed from her hands. When she pulled them away, the scars had vanished completely. This is assimilation of non-action. Whatever one hand touches can be assimilated into the state of whatever the other hand touches. The stamina cost depends on how similar the two targets are. As expected, S rank and above abilities were extraordinary. An SS rank ability naturally came with more than one powerful trait. Incredible. As expected of my partner. Partner? Don't tease me. After healing most of her lingering wounds, Lu Moyu spent more time chatting and resting alongside Lin Hao. Half an hour later, Lu Moyu walked out into the conference room, looking refreshed. She spotted Su Xinxin still staring intently at the system panel and hurried over. Xinxin, I'm sorry. I should have told you earlier that you don't need to keep logging population statistics anymore. Su Xinxin stared at her in surprise. She had already been reassigned for over 2 hours. Why was Lu Moyu only bringing this up now? Teacher, I already know. Zhang Xini told me. Zhang Xini. A woman's intuition told Lu Moyu that Zhang Xini might have witnessed what had happened earlier. Just then Gu Qingxian walked over and turned to Lu Moyu. Where is Lin Hao? I need to speak with him. Lu Moyu's cheeks flushed. Lin Hao had worn himself out and was fast asleep. She could not tell the truth, so she made up an excuse. He stayed up extremely late fishing last night. He's taking an afternoon nap right now. Su Xinxin looked confused. Lin Hao had been wide awake earlier that morning. Gu Qingxian had no choice but to wait for Lin Hao to wake. The leaderboard for total points shifted rapidly. Their team's rank plummeted from 9th all the way to 21st. That meant many ships that had visited the station that morning had reaped great rewards and surpassed them. Being overtaken was not in itself a disaster. As long as they held valuable blueprints and kept producing goods, their points would climb back up. Yet a new blueprint-based product had severely cut into their sales. When Lin Hao woke up, he was told the news at once. Someone had unlocked an F-grade blueprint to craft F-grade quality gear. Items with formal quality grades were sturdier and more effective than ordinary handmade goods. It was a blueprint for an F-grade distiller. The structure was simple, requiring few materials, yet it operated at high efficiency. In the 60-degree Celsius heat, one distiller could produce nearly 2 liters of fresh water per hour. How bad is the impact on our fresh water sales? Lin Hao asked. Terrible. And they have placed no purchase limits. Huge numbers of people are buying these distillers. Within roughly an hour, not a single one of our water purifiers has sold. Lin Hao opened the chat and trade channels. Wave after wave of positive reviews flooded in. This is a lifesaver. The distiller only costs 2 iron ingots, 20 pieces of wood, and 1 unit of plastic. Pay a small processing fee, and you get your own unit. 2 hours in, I've already made 4 liters of water. Cheap and practical. This person is truly doing everyone a great favor. I'm glad our product can help others. I personally promise there will never be purchase limits. Everyone shall be able to drink cool water through this scorching heat. Great. I'll go buy 20 right away. Lin Hao stared in shock. Were these really paid commoners? In business competition, the simplest tactics often work best. Anyone can tell these comments were bought. I also had someone purchase one of these distillers. It works well, but it has plenty of flaws. It takes up a lot of space, breaks easily, and its output is heavily affected by the weather. That thin film on top is made transparent to let light through, so it tears without much effort. Lin Hao let out a dry laugh. This was nothing like what he'd seen in dramas. Still, their rivals were at least decent. They hadn't hired people to spread false accusations about their products. Do we have any straightforward ways to counter them? Gu Qingxian shook her head and gave Lin Hao a strange look. What are you thinking? We're all out on the open sea, separated by countless nautical miles. Their goods are sold directly to buyers. There's no opening to pull underhanded tricks. Her words carried a hint of frustration that they couldn't act even if they wanted to. Gu Qingxian then brought out the net cannon and turned to Lin Hao. We need to launch new products now, and this net cannon is our top priority. I need you to record a promotional video as soon as possible. Lin Hao pushed the net cannon and stepped toward the door, only to turn straight back. Outside was stiflingly hot. The sun blazed overhead, scorching everything beneath it. Night fell, and Lin Hao headed out to fish. When he pulled out his fishing rod, he noticed it had evolved. It felt different in his grasp, heavy and solid with the weight of metal. It looked quite similar to a new energy casting rod. Most importantly, his newly awakened ability perfectly matched this rod. Strength, 117, Stamina, 132/149, Speed, 148, Defense, 111, all his physical stats exceeded 100. By the common standard, he already possessed the physique of a Tier 3 enhanced human. Superpower, SSS, Great Immortal Angling, Talent 1, Chosen Angler. Skill 3, New Energy Surge. Stamina can be converted into electric current for attacks. Voltage scales with strength. When the hook catches a target, electricity transfers without energy loss. The rod's built-in ability was incredibly powerful. Without a conductor, over 70% of lightning's energy dissipates traveling through air. This rod enabled perfect energy transmission, drastically boosting the power of the electric shock. He had discovered this new skill after waking up, and the moment he realized what it could do, he was wide awake with excitement. Gaining another means of attack was an enormous stroke of luck. Still, he couldn't help thinking his superpower's skill leaned into a rather controversial fishing method. This isn't my original world anyway. It's a chance to try something I never could back home. Lin Hao cast the rod hard out toward the sea. The next instant, a powerful tug pulled at the line. Lucky break. My first cast hooked something big. Lin Hao activated his skill. Electric currents surged through his body with a sharp, buzzing hum. Power flowed from his hands into the rod and raced down the line. Water splashed violently where the hook rested, and within seconds, the surface of the sea fell calm again. Lin Hao reeled in the line. A large fish floated belly up, its eyes rolled back, and he hauled it onto the boat. This new energy casting rod is truly formidable. Lin Hao let out a bitter chuckle. No matter how skilled an angler was, no matter how expensive their rod or how much bait they laid, nothing matched the overwhelming speed of this electric method. After fishing for several hours, Lin Hao abandoned this tactic. It would never lure sea monsters. He hooked a fish as long as an arm, smeared its blood all over a smaller fish, and tossed the bait back into the ocean. Sitting at the bow, he prepared for proper angling. Half an hour later, a drowsy Lin Hao spotted a creature over 2 meters long beneath the waves. It was not a fish. It was a sea fiend. Sea fiends were easy to tell apart from ordinary large fish. Their heads were disproportionately big, lined with sharp, protruding teeth that made them look grotesque. Lin Hao guided the bait to drift back and forth in front of the sea fiend. The creature lashed its tail forward and swallowed the bait whole. Got you. Blue light burst from Lin Hao. Electric shocks sent the sea fiend thrashing wildly through the water. As expected, sea fiends possessed far greater vitality than ordinary fish. Nearly forgot about this. Lin Hao secured the rod to the bow, wheeled the net cannon into position, aimed, and fired. A mischievous idea crossed his mind. He could shock the sea fiend until it grew weak from struggling, then trap it with the net cannon. To any onlooker, it would look as though the net had ensnared the fiend, which put up only a brief fight before being hauled in. The display would be spectacular enough to convince anyone of the weapon's strength and efficiency. Lin Hao showed the footage to Gu Qingxian, who was thoroughly impressed. Could the net cannon really be that potent? It was just a net, yet the video showed such devastating power. They had struck gold. When Lin Hao explained the truth, she fell silent. I manipulated the outcome. The sea fiend was weakened by my angling superpower. That's how the video turned out like this. Gu Qingxian pondered for a moment and asked, how long would it take you to retrieve the sea fiend without relying on your ability? If I had a spear, roughly 10 minutes to kill it and bring it aboard. Very well. I'll post this for promotion. Gu Qingxian anonymously shared the video in a short message in the public chat channel. The message immediately drew a flood of viewers. New product, net cannon, capable of capturing Tier 1 sea fiends. Full footage of its use is attached, no falsifications. Note, the target must be injured from long-range strikes before deploying the net. Our team member narrowly avoided injury from the sea fiend. Is the net cannon really this effective? Can't you see the video? System recordings can't be altered. He's right. This isn't footage edited by shady merchants. I watched the whole recording. There's no trickery from the moment the net wraps the fiend until it's pulled aboard. It's credible. Videos don't always need editing. You could tamper with the target instead. Try doing that yourself. I've fought sea fiends before. Fighting one out in open water sounds impossible. Is this Gu's crew? Is the woman leading them that capable? Gu Qingxian watched Lin Hao post comments using her account and shook her head helplessly. His message sparked a wave of debate. All these skeptical remarks. Are you sure this is safe? Lin Hao asked. Gu Qingxian remained calm. Controversy still brings attention. Public discussion draws eyes to our products and attracts more potential buyers. Since she was confident, Lin Hao set aside his worries. After an entire night of discussion, the net cannon grew astonishingly popular in the chat channel, nearly surpassing the distiller. Much of the attention was negative, however. Most viewers insisted the net cannon was useless, and no evidence could change their minds. Day 8 of the apocalypse. No supply stations appeared today. Lin Hao slept until 1 in the afternoon. As soon as he woke, he headed to the meeting room for updates. How are sales going? Lin Hao asked. We've sold 138 units so far, Su Xinxin said excitedly. After transferring from tracking population changes, Gu Qingxian had assigned her to handle net cannon sales. It seemed sales was the perfect fit for her. With steady transactions underway, everyone relaxed. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a staff member rushed into the meeting room with an emergency alert. Did we encounter sea fiends or another ship? Lin Hao asked. It's a ship, a massive vessel. The young woman gasped, her face pale with fright. A huge ship? How large? Lin Hao was shocked. The only ships larger than theirs belonged to players ranked in the top 10, even the top 3. Crossing paths with those players rarely ended well. It's enormous, bigger than a mountain. She spread her arms wide to illustrate its scale. Lin Hao thought she was exaggerating. People inexperienced at sea often mistook distant vessels for landforms. He hurried to the ship's opening to look outside. There's no way a ship can be larger than a mountain. But when he saw it clearly, he swore under his breath. It really did look like a mountain. A giant cruise liner had been split amidships by a hill and was beached along the shore. Lin Hao rushed to the captain's cabin to discuss their next move with Gu Qingxian. Should they flee immediately or move closer to investigate? From afar, the liner appeared abandoned. No horns blared, no warning lights lit up. Lin Hao suspected it was not a player's ship, but one belonging to the native inhabitants of this world. Judging from supply stations, the natives' world resembled humanity's original world, yet filled with constant danger. He guessed this wreck held clues about the threats plaguing these seas. Gu Qingxian turned to him. What's your take? I'm not certain. We should ask Zhang Sini. They needed her special insight. Zhang Sini walked over. She had already used her ability to gauge the risk level. The danger level aboard the ship is only 21%. The chance the hull collapses is just 2.1%. The risk is low, but is it worth taking the chance? Gu Qingxian wondered. Sini, what are the odds we find items worth more than 100 survival coins? 98%. There was excitement in Zhang Sini's voice. The discovery was almost guaranteed. What about items worth over 200 survival coins? Zhang Sini quickly continued her assessment. 87% for 200, 42% for 300, 27% for 400, and 3.4% for 500. The probability of recovering at least one high-value item stands at 67%. The results satisfied both Lin Hao and Gu Qingxian. The potential rewards outweighed the risks, and they resolved to board the wreck to explore. Most importantly, they hoped to uncover information about this apocalyptic world. Understanding their surroundings was critical to long-term survival and learning what catastrophe had unfolded. They split 20 people into 4 teams to board the wreck. Teams led by Lin Hao, Lu Moyu, and Liang Sisi would search the vessel. The 4th team patrolled the shore to watch for unexpected threats on the island. Lin Hao led 4 others toward the captain's cabin. He hoped to locate the ship's core. Even if the core had already been removed, leftover traces would confirm whether the liner belonged to natives. As soon as they stepped onto the island, Lin Hao noticed something odd. A strong rotten egg stench hung thick in the air. The ground was not sand or bedrock, but dark stone. Lin Hao recalled geography lessons about islands formed from coral and seabird guano. He suspected this was one such island, explaining the foul odor. His thoughts were quickly swept away by the sight of the 10-story tall wreck. Next to this colossus, our ship looks tiny. Lin Hao swallowed hard in awe. I hope we can upgrade our ship to this size someday. It looks incredibly secure. If we keep working hard, we'll get there. The 3 teams climbed aboard through the broken section of the hull. The fracture looked strange. The damage originated from the underside, not the side. Lin Hao headed from the broken hull toward the bow. The other 2 teams split off to search different areas. The members with Lin Hao were the young women who usually handled sales work in the meeting room. The 5 walked down dim, damp corridors. Moss covered the floor, and seaweed clung to the walls. A single small flashlight lit their path forward. Lin Hao, this feels dangerous. I keep expecting creatures to jump out at us. Luing stayed close behind him, lightly gripping the edge of his clothing. No need to be scared. Sini said the danger level is only 21%. At most, we might run into 1 or 2 weak monsters. Lin Hao shone the flashlight upward from beneath his chin, making a silly face and lowering his voice. If you don't face your fears, they might sneak up behind you. You're terrible, Lin Hao. The 4 women scolded in unison. The bow section was wedged against rocky outcrops, tilting the entire floor at a steep angle. They had to shuffle forward while holding onto the walls. Ah! A sudden cry from behind startled the group. Lin Hao gripped his flashlight in one hand and his fishing rod in the other. What happened? I'm fine. I slipped on the moss, Li Muzi replied. I'll help her up. Keep looking ahead. Su Xinxin knelt down to brush moss off Li Muzi's clothes. As she glanced sideways, Su Xinxin spotted something unusual. A metal storage cabinet on the lowest level stood half open. Cloth, wrapped shapes were visible inside. Curious, she pulled the cabinet door wider and lifted the cloth. A pale bone lay beneath. Ah! Her scream echoed down the corridor. Lin Hao rushed over. What's going on? He asked sharply. He stared at the bone, briefly stunned, but quickly regained his composure. He did something odd. He picked up the bone and examined it closely, holding it beside his thigh and calf for comparison. Lin Hao, are you alright? Why is he touching human remains? It's unsettling. Lin Hao rolled his eyes at them. I'm trying to figure out which bone this is. It definitely belongs to a person. He had no medical training and could only compare its shape to his own body to confirm it was human. The bone has turned yellow. The person died a long time ago. This can't be someone transported to this world alongside us. It must be one of the natives. If this is their ship, I wonder if the core is still aboard. Lin Hao helped the others to their feet, and they continued toward the captain's cabin. Lu Moyu's group reached the ship's kitchen. Team leader, none of these supplies are usable anymore. One girl picked up a packet of condiment. Every piece of tableware was rusted or cracked. Nothing remained intact. Let's keep moving. Cindy said high value items are here, so they must be somewhere. The group ventured deeper into the wreck. Meanwhile, Liang Cici's team descended toward the propeller shaft and halted before a strange closed door. Cici, the door won't open. A girl pressed the control button beside the door to no effect. Liang Cici summoned a small windmill with her ability. She tied one end of a rope to the door handle and the other to the windmill blades. She pushed against the blades with all her strength, yet the windmill did not budge. At only 155 centimeters tall and weighing 40 kilograms, she lacked raw physical power. Seeing what she was doing, the others rushed to help. Working together, they turned the windmill. The small force multiplied through leverage, and the metal door snapped open easily. Physics class wasn't a total waste after all, Liang Cici grinned. The five stepped inside. The room was pitch black, yet faint light seeped up from below. Watch your step. One girl stumbled toward the opening, but Liang Cici caught her with an energy barrier. Climb back up quickly. Liang Cici and another woman pulled her to safety. It's not a solid room. It connects to the outside. What is this place? Look over there. They walked closer and discovered a lifeboat wedged in the opening. There's actually a lifeboat here. On this endless ocean, few vehicles were as practical as lifeboats. Their main ship stretched 50 to 60 meters long. To meet other vessels, they had to sail close. Even a minor collision could deal catastrophic damage to both ships. A lifeboat removed that risk. They could anchor far from shore when landing on islands and avoid getting stranded, eliminating long swims through the sea. This must be one of the items worth over 100 survival coins. Liang Cici smiled happily. She took genuine pride whenever she could secure resources for the whole team. Cici, there are bones on the boat. I don't want to go near it. Liang Cici had witnessed grim sights back in the warehouse. She calmed herself quickly. They're only bones now. Pretend they're driftwood. She demonstrated by picking up one bone and tossing it outside, then shuddered as cold sweat ran down her back. Inspired by her courage, the rest stepped forward to clear the remains. Once every bone was removed, they stored the lifeboat in their inventory space. Back with Lin Hao's group, they had searched the monitoring room and crew quarters before reaching the captain's lounge. Lin Hao, there's a journal here. Luing called out. Lin Hao hurried over and shone his flashlight onto the notebook. Water damage had blurred most of the handwriting. Many characters were unreadable. Day 73 ****. The sea surges wildly, static weather tremors. Every page looked similar. Some sections were completely illegible. From what they could decipher, it was the captain's log recording events aboard. Battles against sea fiends, crew fatalities, and even a crew member's wedding. The journal was incomplete, stopping after roughly 700 days, with only about 1/3 of the original pages remaining. Pack it up. We'll study it carefully once we return to our ship. Lin Hao ordered the journal stored. After another sweep revealed nothing else useful, the five set off again. The steep tilt of the hull made walking difficult. Lin Hao encouraged the others. The captain's cabin is almost within reach. Hold on a little longer. As a Tier 3 enhanced human, Lin Hao possessed far greater stamina and moved with ease. walk, he heard a faint hissing sound. He pushed open the door to the room where the noise originated, but saw nothing unusual. Was that just my imagination? The sound resembled gas leaking. Lin Hao worried flammable fumes might build up and trigger an explosion. The noise faded soon after, so he set aside his concern. What was that? Su Xinshin asked. Nothing. Keep going. They finally arrived at the captain's cabin. The space was filled with equipment. Reading the markings, Lin Hao was stunned. Torpedoes, radar, anti-aircraft guns, all manner of advanced heavy weapons and instruments. This cruise liner is far more than it appears. No ordinary passenger ship carried anti-aircraft artillery and torpedoes. It looked more like a warship. Unfortunately, the monitoring system did not work. Without footage, they could not locate where the torpedoes were stored. We'll have to search section by section. Every piece of equipment here was worth more than 100 survival coins. Lin Hao's group left the captain's cabin and followed the signs toward the deck to find the anti-aircraft gun. Hiss. The leaking sound grew louder. Stay alert, Lin Hao warned. Suddenly, a python as thick as a person's waist lunged from an overhead ventilation shaft, jaws wide, and swallowed Lin Hao whole. Lin Hao, terrified yet rational, the four women raised their spear guns and fired. The python recoiled. It convulsed violently a short distance away, slamming its body against the walls repeatedly, before collapsing and falling motionless. Inside the serpent's body, Lin Hao unleashed a surge of electricity, burning its internal organs. He forced his way out through the snake's open mouth. Great. You're all right. Lin Hao frowned, confused. No system kill notification had appeared. The python stretched over 10 meters long with a body half as wide as a person. Creatures of that size did not exist in his original world. Its crushing strength had broken several of his bones as he was trapped inside. Look, there's an identification tag on the snake. Su Xinshin pointed. Engraved on the tag was a single name, Yu Yu. Could this be the summoning beast of a summoning-type skill? Lin Hao thought without hesitation. Brother Lin Hao, do you think there are more monsters around here? What's there to be afraid of? If you hadn't distracted the serpent with your attacks and bought me time to catch my breath, I would never have landed that killing blow. In truth, their spear guns had barely pierced the snake's hide. Lin Hao had relied entirely on his electric ability to slay the beast. Still, this was a good chance to praise them, boost their confidence, so they would dare raise their weapons and stand their ground in future crises. The girls beamed happily at his compliments. Lin Hao stowed the serpent's corpse. Even if it was a summoned creature, it was still a monster. Decomposing it might yield valuable factors. The group continued heading toward the deck. The vessel no longer possessed its core, yet traces confirmed one had once been aboard. Fresh from their run, in with the giant serpent, they moved with greater caution. Stepping onto the deck, scorching sunlight blinded them. The metal surface burned fiercely through the soles of their shoes. Su Xinshin found a scrap of cloth to shield herself from the sun and scanned the bow, but the anti-aircraft gun was nowhere to be seen. How go? There's nothing here. Not a single mechanical structure in sight. Could someone have dismantled it and taken it away? That makes sense. Maybe we should head below to look for other weapons. Several girls could not endure the heat. They huddled in shaded areas, fanning themselves constantly. Lin Hao frowned, unwilling to give up. If they could get their hands on an anti-aircraft gun at this stage, even just for show, it would serve as a deterrent against enemies and boost their ranking points. Go wait for me on the level below. I'll search for a few more minutes and join you shortly. The girls felt guilty leaving him, but they lacked his physical stamina. Risking heat stroke would only become a burden, so they headed down to escape the swelter. Lin Hao combed the deck. On military warships from drills, artillery was typically mounted at the bow or along the flanks. He walked to the bow and inspected every potential mounting position for the anti-aircraft gun. There was no sign of the weapon, nor any marks indicating it had been removed. The gun was still aboard. He just had not found it yet. Determined, he paced forward until his foot pressed against a loose steel plate. All other plating was solid, firm as concrete beneath his feet, but this section shifted like a metal hatch. He spotted a distinct crack and knocked against it. A hollow echo reverberated. A hidden compartment. Lin Hao pulled out a fire axe and hacked open the hatch in a few strikes. He pried the metal cover aside, revealing an anti-aircraft gun standing as tall as a person. Close, in weapon system, Grade B. Caliber, 30 mm, ammunition specification, 30 by 165 mm, onboard ammunition, none. Condition, severely damaged, inoperable. Reparable. It was actually a graded item. Lin Hao stared at the weapon, overwhelmed with excitement. He exerted great effort to dismantle the close, in weapon system and stored it inside his inventory before heading down. Seeing the bright smile on Lin Hao's face, the girls questioned him curiously. How good? Did you find the anti-aircraft gun? Of course I did. The four girls let out gasps of surprise. With such a weapon, they would hold a massive advantage on the open sea. Let's go search for an armory. If we can seize more weapons, no one will dare target us anymore. Spurred on by his words, they quickened their pace. Before they could reach the next level, the entire ship lurched violently, as if rammed by something. What's happening? Lin Hao grabbed the handrail and steadied the girls beside him. They shook their heads, equally confused. Someone suggested checking outside through the windows. The team stationed ashore would signal if there was trouble. Lin Hao scrambled to a window facing the land. The girls on shore waved frantically and arranged debris on the ground to form a large arrow pointing toward the center of the island. Flocks of birds erupted into the sky from the island. A vast fiery glow stretched across the clouds, and thick black smoke billowed upward from the island's interior. Sea wind carried ash toward the ship, clouding the window glass and blocking their view. A terrible premonition washed over Lin Hao. Could this island be volcanic? Run! A volcanic eruption might be underway. What? It took a moment for the news to sink in, yet they immediately hurried after Lin Hao. When they reached the fractured section of the hull, they ran straight into Lu Moyu's group. Lin Hao, what's going on? A volcano is erupting. Hurry back to our ship. What about Liang Cixi and the others? Lin Hao glanced around, unable to spot them. He shouted at the top of his lungs. Liang Cixi, return to the ship at once. The volcano is erupting. He turned to the group. You all go ahead. I'll find them. Using his fishing rod as a grappling hook, Lin Hao swung across the broken hull, searching for the 5 missing girls. Another powerful tremor shook the warship. It tilted dangerously, nearly capsizing. Smoke thickened above the island, accompanied by surging flames and spurting magma. The volcano was truly erupting. Gu Qingxian watched from their vessel, her heart pounding with anxiety. She had already ordered the ship to move as close as safely possible. Any further, and they would risk running aground. Put out a call. Offer any price to purchase small boats. Members of the ship sent messages across the public and trade channels, searching for anyone selling watercraft. The 5 girls on shore began swimming back. Lu Moyu's group jumped into the sea to follow suit. Trapped deep within the ship's lower hull, Liang Cixi's team panicked, wandering aimlessly. Their flashlights had died, leaving them lost in the sealed, dark compartments. Cixi, what do we do? The volcano is erupting. Why are we so unlucky? How did we get caught up in a volcanic eruption? I don't want to die. Lin Hao, go. We're over here. Liang Cixi felt hopeless. After locating a lifeboat, they had ventured deeper into the hull hoping to scavenge more supplies. Their flashlights failed unexpectedly, and without a clear sense of direction, they circled endlessly between rooms. Wasting time panicking won't help. Try to recall the path we took. If we find the exit, we can escape quickly on the lifeboat. Falling silent, they struggled to navigate the pitch black space with no landmarks to guide them. Just as despair set in, a voice echoed through the darkness. Cixi, is that you? How good? We're here. Tears streamed down Liang Cixi's face as she shouted, all her fear pouring out. Lin Hao kicked open a door, and light flooded the shadowy chamber. At the sight of him, Liang Cixi could no longer suppress her terror and rushed forward to embrace him. Her head rested against his chest. Lin Hao stroked her hair to calm her. It's all right. You're safe now. We need to leave quickly. Led by Lin Hao, they headed toward the exit leading to open water. Cixi Jia is crying so hard. The other girls relaxed now that Lin Hao had arrived and teased her lightly. She's been forcing herself to stay strong this whole time. Seeing Lin Hao go finally let all her fear come out. You've got quite the eye for people. Keep up at the back. The volcano is about to erupt fully. Lin Hao prepared to dive into the sea and swim toward their main ship, but Liang Cixi stopped him. She pulled out the lifeboat they had discovered and launched it onto the water. Lin Hao, go. Let's take this. You found a lifeboat? Great work. Once all 6 climbed aboard, none of them knew how to operate it. The volcano reached full eruption. A massive mushroom cloud rose from the center of the island dozens of kilometers away, towering flames shooting skyward. The ground shuddered violently. They still fumbled with the lifeboat controls. Liang Cixi twisted the steering wheel and pressed the throttle, yet the boat did not move. I only know how to drive cars. How does this thing work? Look, the ash cloud is heading for us. Lin Hao pushed the lifeboat through the water with his hands while instructing them. Pull this safety lever and hit the throttle. It works similar to driving a car. Lin Hao had no formal experience operating boats, but he had watched enough fishing videos to have a rough idea. After the lever was pulled, the engine sputtered to life. Liang Cece slammed on the throttle, and the lifeboat surged forward. Countless boulders launched into the air, hurtling straight toward them. Liang Cece raised her hands, layering energy barriers above the boat to block the falling debris. Rivers of magma surged outward. When molten rock hit the ocean, the seawater instantly vaporized, forming jagged black rock formations. The island continued expanding, growing wider and taller as new terrain formed. Lin Hao gave the abandoned warship a powerful shove, generating a huge wave. The swell lifted the lifeboat several meters, nearly capsizing it. Pull the others aboard. Lin Hao's group were the last to evacuate. The lifeboat quickly overtook the slower girls swimming behind. Lin Hao reached out and hauled them up one by one, rescuing those who struggled in the water. "We made it," they exclaimed in relief. Lin Hao glanced back at the sinking warship with regret. So many supplies had been left behind. Even after years of abandonment, most goods were unusable, but the oil reserves were still intact. The vessel had not exploded, meaning its fuel tanks and ammunition lockers remained untouched. Thinking of all the resources they could not retrieve, Lin Hao felt as though he had lost a fortune. The lifeboat pulled alongside their main ship. Gu Qingxian summoned a water dragon that lifted everyone safely onto the deck. "Is everyone accounted for?" Gu Qingxian asked anxiously. "We're all here," Lin Hao replied. His team were the final evacuees, and all swimmers had been recovered without casualties. Set full speed away from the volcano. At Gu Qingxuan's command, Lin Hao activated his skill. The ship's speed rocketed from several nautical miles per hour to 50. Gradually, the volcanic island shrank beyond the horizon. Lin Hao entered the meeting room. Everyone lingered under the air conditioning, exhausted after their near-death experience. "We survived another day. This was even more dangerous than the last outpost." The seawater was boiling hot at one point. "I would have been hurt badly if Lin Hao Ge hadn't pulled me away. A small rock hit my arm. It hurts terribly. We encountered an enormous serpent on the warship. It even swallowed Hao Ge. We fought together to kill it, or we would have died there." "A giant snake? Thank goodness we didn't run into it. Teacher and I found their ammunition storage." The mention of an ammunition vault made Lin Hao jump to his feet. "Ammunition storage. Bring everything out quickly." Lu Moyu and the others unloaded bullets from their inventory bags. There were rounds of varying calibers: pistol, rifle, sniper rifle, and ammunition for anti-aircraft weaponry. Bullet: 9 mm, grade F, condition, water, damaged, unusable. Bullet: 30 mm, grade E, condition, water, damaged, unusable. There was also an extremely long torpedo. Unfortunately, most of the ammunition had been ruined by seawater. Still, a portion remained intact. They could decompose these rounds to extract gunpowder and iron ingots. Once they acquired suitable blueprints, the materials could be forged into new ammunition. The ammunition cache was Lu Moyu's group's greatest haul. Apart from that, they only collected ordinary raw materials. Liang Cece displayed their findings as well: the lifeboat, several wooden oars, and miscellaneous salvaged metal parts. Just as everyone felt satisfied with their gains from the expedition, Lin Hao revealed his biggest surprise. When they laid eyes on the deck, mounted artillery piece, all fell silent, stunned. The muzzle of the close-in weapon system was wider than their hands. The dark barrel emanated an overwhelming sense of pressure. Is that a cannon? You could call it a heavy machine gun, just with a much larger caliber and an extremely high rate of fire. Lin Hao simplified the description so they could understand. When he added that the weapon was broken, they slowly closed their open mouths. Even damaged, it was an incredible discovery. "I want to mount it on the bow," Lin Hao said to Gu Qingxian. She looked confused. He had just said the gun was non-functional. "If it's broken?" Lin Hao shook his index finger. "It can be repaired. More importantly, once it's mounted on our ship, no outsider will know whether it works or not. No one would dare test if the weapon was operational." Lin Hao believed even George in his fully diamond form could not withstand sustained fire from this close-in weapon system. Any hostile group would turn and flee at the mere sight of it. Gu Qingxian considered his reasoning and agreed. Even if enemies eventually discovered it was damaged, it was far better than letting the weapon gather dust in storage. Lin Hao waited until sunset to begin installing the artillery. The mount was designed to allow removal later. Once he found repair blueprints or suitable machinery, he could take it down for restoration. Standing before the imposing close-in weapon system, Lin Hao glanced at his net cannon. It suddenly seemed trivial by comparison, little more than a toy. Lin Hao sat at the bow, eating kin food while watching his fishing rod. The fruit kin had begun to spoil in the extreme heat and needed to be eaten soon. He had survived on canned goods and water, rich rations for 2 straight days. After 2 hours of fishing, Lu Moyu called him back aboard. It seemed his peaceful fishing sessions would be cut short from now on. Lin Hao straightened up, determined to squeeze in another 30 minutes. 10 minutes later, he returned to the ship. Lu Moyu stared at the wounds covering his body, filled with worry. Look at all these injuries. Why do you still insist on fishing? Don't you care about your safety? She pouted as she chided him. Does that mean I can get a proper rest tonight? Don't get any ideas. Lu Moyu placed her hands on Lin Hao's chest and activated her assimilation ability. The healing process took a long time. She needed to locate undamaged tissue with matching structures to mend his wounds. Sweat soaked her skin, leaving her fingertips wrinkled. You should rest for a full day? Your ability must be drained after that. Lu Moyu frowned at his suggestion, clearly annoyed. Dream on. I worked so hard to heal you. You're not getting out of your responsibilities. She held Lin Hao in place to finish the treatment. Several minutes passed. I can't go on. I'm exhausted. I need to lie down. Day 9 of the apocalypse. Lin Hao was woken early for a meeting in the conference room. All 29 members were present. Several girls who had pulled night watch duty yawned constantly, drowsy as sleepy kittens. Gu Qingxian sat at the center with a serious expression, clutching a wooden ship core, the core Lin Hao had recovered from Xiao Jiayu's vessel. We will arrive at another outpost today. It can accommodate 3 ships, and all 3 berths are already occupied. The danger will be substantial. I brought out this core hoping one more of us will awaken an ability, a new ally to fight alongside the team. The core was retrieved by Lin Hao, so the right to choose who receives it belongs to him. Excitement rippled through the group. Gaining another ability user boosted everyone's chance of being selected. Most of the girls turned their gazes toward Lin Hao, hoping to be picked. Only a few kept their heads lowered, lost in thought. Lin Hao studied the group, struggling to make a decision. Several girls had worked tirelessly and remained resilient. Choosing any single person would disappoint the others. Selecting someone alone feels too one-sided. I'll nominate 4 candidates, and we'll hold a vote. Gu Qingxian approved the plan. A vote would be fairer and reduce friction between the team members. Su Xinxin, Li Muzi, Lu Ying, and Guan Xiaolin. As their names were called, each girl reacted differently. Shock, hesitation, joy, and calm. The vote concluded with Lu Ying as the winner. Lin Hao was pleased with the outcome. Gu Qingxian used the wooden ship core through the system to trigger the awakening. Grade 3 wooden ship core activated. Initiating ability awakening. A beam of light wrapped around Lu Ying, then faded. Did it work? What ability did you get? The girl beside her asked eagerly. Lu Ying froze for a moment, then grinned, her eyes crinkling. It worked. It's a grade B ability, control. Control. Lu Ying demonstrated immediately. She targeted her friend, forcing her to perform several awkward, unplanned movements. The sleepy girls gathered around, laughing at the strange sight. That's so embarrassing. The controlled girl blushed and lowered her head. This ability is amazing. In battle, she could force enemies to attack each other. Exactly. If opponents wield powerful weapons, Lu Ying can take control of their fighters and turn their strength against them. We won't need to take unnecessary risks. Gu Qingxian rested her chin in her hand, wondering how powerful the control ability truly was. Lu Ying, try controlling me. Huh? Lu Ying stared at her in surprise. It's fine. I want to experience being controlled. Lu Ying activated her ability and attempted to take hold of Gu Qingxian. Gu Qingxian jolted abruptly and stood rigidly. Lin Hao watched her blank expression, while Lu Ying gritted her teeth, her forehead covered in sweat. Lu Ying, can you command her to use her ability? Lu Ying closed her eyes and concentrated. After a moment, she shook her head, perspiration dripping down her face. I can't manage it. Try making her speak. Lu Ying focused again. Gu Qingxian uttered a few cold, mechanical words that sounded nothing like her usual voice. Lu Ying severed the connection soon after, gasping heavily. Lin Hao asked Gu Qingxian about her experience. What did you feel just now? A strange sense of mental fog. It's hard to describe. Lu Ying, how did controlling the two of them differ? The difference was obvious. Controlling Gu Qingxian drained her rapidly, while manipulating the other girl allowed sustained movement. Controlling Yixia felt like lifting a bottle of water. Controlling the monitor felt like carrying a full bucket with a heavy stone weighing me down. Lin Hao nodded. It matched his speculation. The difficulty of control depended on the target's mental strength. Gu Qingxian was an S-rank ability user with far higher baseline mental power, making her much harder to subdue. Even so, the ability was invaluable. Seizing control of an enemy for even a single second mid-combat could turn the tide of a fight. the awakening meeting concluded. Everyone needed to conserve strength for the upcoming outpost. Outpost, seafood market, ship capacity. 3. Ships currently docked. 3. Treasure chests have respawned. Remaining docking time, 7 hours. Before going ashore, they consulted Zhang Sini. The mission carried extreme danger, yet promised immense rewards. They had to take the risk. The official rankings would be finalized in 2 days. Their current positions were precarious, and they needed a major resource haul to climb into the top 10. They also had no way of knowing what disasters would strike in the days ahead, so they needed to stockpile massive supplies to prepare for the next catastrophe. 15 of them had come to the island. Buildings were packed closely together and the lanes were narrow, making travel on foot far more practical than driving, so they left their vehicles behind. The island bustled like an open-air market, with shops winding in every direction. The group chose to stick together as they moved forward. Ba Tianhu turned to the thin man beside him. Gu Xiao, is Gu Qingxian, the one ranked in the top 10, really your great niece? The man, who looked to be only in his 30s, nodded with a crafty grin. Brother Tianhu, you know the Gu family is famously wealthy in Jiangcheng. There aren't many other Gu households in the city, and almost no one else shares the name Gu Qingxian. I'm certain she must be my great niece. Standing 187 centimeters tall, Ba Tianhu towered half a head over Gu Xiao. He clapped a large hand on the other man's shoulder. Perfect. If we cross paths with them and you can convince her to merge her crew with ours, I'll make you first mate. How does that offer sound? Gu Xiao's small, rat-like eyes widened at once. He began daydreaming about the privileges that came with being first mate. Absolutely. We're family after all. As an elder, I'll make sure my junior sees reason. The group carried a compass, like tracking device, and headed toward Lin Hao's party. Meanwhile, Lin Hao and his companions had entered an aquarium to scavenge supplies. The fish tanks here were valuable finds, spacious enough to be stored in inventory and taken away. Lin Hao and Lu Moyu ventured deeper inside, while the others outside collected the tanks and aquatic creatures. Right then, Ba Tianhu's crew arrived at the entrance of the aquarium. Ba Tianhu spoke to the subordinate holding the tracking device. This is the place. Yes, sir. The tracker's final coordinates point straight to this shop. The compass needle remained firmly aimed at the aquarium, no matter how the man twisted the device. Good. Everyone move in. More than a dozen men dressed in black, each wielding a machete, stormed inside and surrounded Gu Qingxian and her group. Who are you? Get out of our way at once. Gu Qingxian seethed. Being suddenly encircled by strangers could not mean anything good. Niece, you're great. Uncle has searched far and wide to find you. Have you missed me? The moment Gu Qingxian heard that voice, a wave of revulsion washed over her. Deep within the aquarium, Lin Hao and Lu Moyu pressed onward. The marine life they saw bore no resemblance to any species they had known before. They all shared striking similarities, rows of sharp fangs, with few specialized organs adapted for survival. Every feature seemed shaped solely for hunting. Should we kill them? Maybe they'll drop survival coins. Lin Hao shook his head. A strong sense of danger lingered here, which was why he had decided only the 2 of them would advance, leaving the rest on standby outside. Out in the main area of the aquarium, Gu Xiao stepped to the front of the crowd to face Gu Qingxian. It's you, Gu Qingxian said, her face twisted with distaste. What? Does your great uncle not deserve a warm welcome? Zhang Sini gripped her pistol, staying alert every second. Monitor, who is he? Is he really your great uncle? Don't call him that nonsense. He's just my grandfather's distant cousin, barely more than 10 years older than me, and a thoroughly rotten person. Humiliated by Gu Qingxuan's words in front of everyone, Gu Zhao's face darkened. Gu Qingxian, blood makes me your elder regardless of how distant the relation. Watch how you speak to me. Where are your manners? How did your parents raise you? Ba Tianhu grew impatient watching the 2 exchange petty remarks. Gu Xiao, get to the point. Gu Xiao quickly nodded at his leader's firm command. Niece, are you the captain ranked 9th on the leaderboard? Our captain greatly admires your abilities and wants to invite you to join our crew. Gu Qingxian glanced from Gu Xiao to Ba Tianhu, then scanned the men surrounding them. None appeared trustworthy. Brutish hostility radiated off every one of them, and they held their machetes with the practiced stance of seasoned street toughs. She knew full well what Gu Xiao was like, lazy, reckless, and addicted to vices. Anyone who traveled with him could only be cut from the same cloth. There was no chance she would agree to such an unreasonable demand. Gu Xiao, have you lost your mind? I hold 9th place on the rankings. Why would I join your insignificant crew? You. Gu Zhao's expression turned uglier still. If he failed this task, he dared not imagine how Ba Tianhu would punish him. Gu Qingxian, Don't you worry, I'll spill all your secrets. Gu Qingshuan's expression shifted sharply. She pointed angrily at Gu Shao. Say a single word, and I will never spare you. Gu Shao smirked triumphantly. I'll keep quiet only if you agree to join us. Rest assured, I'll look after your friends too. His eyes wandered greedily over the young women beside Gu Qingxian. He knew Gu Qingxian was a university student, so her companions were likely fellow students. Their bearing stood apart from anyone he had met in seedy venues before. Only then did Ba Tianhu notice that Gu Qingshuan's group consisted entirely of young women. He remembered the starting rules. Those who boarded the same ship were people who had been close to one another in their original world. His own ship carried his underlings, along with people Gu Shao had coerced, bar workers, and those who owed him debts. Looking at the group of students before him, his desire to conquer them surged. Monitor, don't agree to their demands, Liang Cixi stammered. She was the shortest among the 13 girls, making her stand out. Greedy stares kept drifting toward her as soon as the men entered, leaving her feeling deeply uncomfortable. Don't delude yourself, Gu Shao. One day you'll meet a brutal end, and you still expect me to join your crew? How naive. Gu Qingxian raised her hands, ready to fight. Unaware of the confrontation unfolding outside, Lin Hao and Lu Moyu continued deeper into the aquarium. Aquariums had one of the highest chances of spawning treasure chests, so they were determined to search thoroughly. Lin Hao, look over there. Lu Moyu pointed ahead. Inside a tank sat a silver treasure chest, circled by several sharks swimming back and forth. That's it. Step back a little, teacher. I'll fish the chest out. Lin Hao cast his fishing rod. The hook latched onto the treasure chest. He pulled hard. The chest smashed through the glass and tumbled out, bringing several mutated sharks along with it. Even on dry land, the sharks remained ferocious and lunged straight for Lin Hao. Lin Hao pressed a palm against the ground and unleashed a surge of electricity. The sharks convulsed briefly before going still. Killed one level 1 sea wraith. Reward, 4 survival coins times 5. Let's head back outside. Lin Hao and Lu Moyu turned to retrace their steps. Ba Tianhu seethed at Gu Qingshuan's unyielding attitude. No woman had ever dared defy him like this. She would be the first and the last. He grabbed Gu Shao and tossed him roughly behind him. Gu Shao crashed heavily into the aquarium doorway with a loud bang. Good. Men, move in. Subdue whoever you can catch. The underlings tightened their grip on their machetes, eager for action. They had long envied the privileges their leader enjoyed, and now a group of targets stood right in front of them. They could barely contain themselves. As one man stepped forward, Zhang Sini shot him dead. Anyone who moves next gets a bullet. Zhang Sini held up her pistol, holding the entire group at bay. I just need to hold them off until Lin Hao returns. Her hands trembled slightly, yet she kept her aim trained on their heads. They have a gun. Ba Tianhu was caught off guard, but only for a moment. Crocodile, take down the one with the pistol. A gaunt man stepped slowly out from behind Ba Tianhu. His cheeks were sunken, heavy dark bags hung under his eyes, and he looked chronically ill. One red and one black tattoo wrapped around his arm, and infected sores dotted his shoulders. Kill her, and I'll reward you with a supply of drugs. Crocodile appeared listless and empty-eyed, but the command instantly ignited wild excitement in him. He stretched out his right hand, and a black scythe materialized out of thin air. Dark mist swirled around his body as he gripped the weapon. Crocodile charged forward swinging the scythe. Zhang Sini fired all 5 remaining rounds from her revolver, only for every bullet to be deflected by the blade. Crocodile slashed the scythe toward Zhang Sini, yet the weapon froze halfway through its arc. The blade pierced 5 layers of energy barriers Liang Cixi had summoned in an instant. A sneer tugged at Crocodile's lips. He pulled hard, and the barriers shattered completely. The scythe was inches from striking Zhang Sini when a blast of water knocked Crocodile flying. Weakened by the surrounding dark mist, the attack failed to deal serious damage. Ba Tianhu watched Gu Qingxian use her ability to repel Crocodile and jeered at Gu Shao by the doorway. Clearly far more capable than a useless thing like you. Ba Tianhu shook both arms. An enormous stone giant burst up from beneath the floor. He stood atop its shoulder, staring down at the girls as if they were insignificant insects. This farce ends now. The stone giant hauled itself fully out of the ground. Its 10-meter tall frame tore through the roof. Every swing of its limbs demolished sections of the aquarium. Gu Qingxian gathered water from the fish tanks to form a water serpent that coiled around the giant. The giant squeezed one hand, and the water serpent dissolved instantly. Water splashed all over Gu Qingxian. 2 failed attacks in succession planted seeds of doubt in her mind. She had lost to Xiao Jieyu before, even with a type advantage. Now she was outmatched by Ba Tianhu despite having the type edge. Am I truly powerless? Gu Qingxian hesitated for a split second. The giant's massive palm swung down and seized her. Refusing to surrender, she formed a water sphere to shield herself. Ba Tianhu smiled coldly at the defiant young woman trapped in his giant's grasp. Miss Gu, let's see how tough that pride of yours holds up. He ordered the giant to tighten its grip. The protective water sphere burst. Gu Qingxian let out a pained gasp, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth. The giant raised its hand closer to Ba Tianhu, letting him get a clear look at his captive. As they drew near, Gu Qingxian clenched her jaw. She seized her chance and shot a jet of blood straight at Ba Tianhu. Shocked by the sudden assault, Ba Tianhu twisted aside, narrowly avoiding a fatal hit. The blood stream grazed his ear, slicing it cleanly in two. Blood streamed down his head. My ear. You'll pay for this. Blinded by rage, Ba Tianhu commanded the stone giant to hurl Gu Qingxian toward the ground. Just before she crashed, Lin Hao slid forward and caught her. Even cushioned by Lin Hao's body, Gu Qingxian was knocked unconscious and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Lin Hao sustained minor internal injuries, but remained fit to fight. Teacher, catch her. Lin Hao passed Gu Qingxian to Lu Moyu. Her assimilation ability could heal the injured girl, and she possessed enough strength to keep her safe. Lin Hao faced Ba Tianhu alone. Beside the three-story stone giant, his frame looked tiny. Ba Tianhu spoke first. Who are you? I'd advise you not to meddle. I'm Ba Tianhu, ranked 89th on the leaderboard. Our captain has no grievance with you. Why attack us? So you're part of her crew. I thought their ship carried only women. Never expected there to be a man among them. Lin Hao could no longer endure his words. The moment the insult left Ba Tianhu's mouth, electricity crackled around his hand, and a bolt of blue lightning streaked toward the giant's shoulder. Ba Tianhu was formidably strong and dodged the surprise strike with ease. Try to ambush me while I talk. I'll beat you until, Lin Hao had seen the lightning strike leave wet trails across the stone. Rock itself did not conduct electricity, but water did. Instead of targeting Ba Tianhu directly, he aimed at the giant, letting the current travel across the damp surface to reach its controller. Meanwhile, Crocodile sliced through incoming bullets and charged toward Zhang Sini and the others. Liang Cixi raised multiple layers of energy barriers, only to watch them break apart immediately. Lu Ying stood behind the two girls, her hands shaking. Why was she so terrified this time? Why could she not bring herself to fight back? Was it because someone was no longer standing behind to protect her? Lin Hao could not shield her forever. No one would always be there to back her up. Lu Ying stepped forward and positioned herself in front of the other two. This time, I'll protect you. She activated her ability to seize control of Crocodile. At once, his scythe began to fade, and the dark mist surrounding his body dissipated. What has he done to his own mind? Why can't his body obey his brain? Moments after Lu Ying took control, Crocodile's face started twitching. He foamed at the mouth and rolled his eyes upward. Human bodies operated on signals sent from the brain through the cerebellum and spinal cord, which was how Lu Ying's ability functioned. Victims under her control often entered a dazed state as their own consciousness was pushed aside. Controlling Crocodile felt like operating an infected computer. The cursor moved on its own, and inputs failed to register. He's resisting violently. I can't hold him. Dark mist swirled back around Crocodile, and he lifted his scythe once more. Driven mad, he turned on two of his own companions and cut them down, before refocusing on Lu Ying's group. Zhang Sini quickly reloaded her revolver and pulled the trigger 6 times. Only one shot hit him in the calf. The rest were blocked by the dark mist. Crocodile charged wildly, swinging his scythe. At the critical moment, Lu Moyu stepped forward with a long spear to block his path. Blows rained down upon her. Yet Crocodile's ability did not boost his physical speed, leaving him only slightly faster than an ordinary person. Lu Moyu moved several times quicker than average, easily parrying every strike. Lu Ying called out to Liang Cixi and Lu Moyu. Cixi, create an energy barrier under his feet to trip him. Teacher, strike him the moment he falls. Their loud strategy would have alerted any sane opponent, but Crocodile was far from rational. Lu Moyu understood the plan. She leaped backward to create space for Liang Cixi to place the barrier. Crocodile continued his reckless charge, tripped over the invisible barrier, and fell. Lu Moyu drove her spear straight through the back of his head. Crocodile, the ruthless top enforcer with an S-class ability that could materialize killing intent, met an abrupt end. Lin Hao's electrical attack failed to kill Ba Tianhu. The giant's second arm intercepted the strike. Ba Tianhu retreated into the giant's open mouth, sheltering himself fully. Let's see how you hit me now. The stone giant swung all 4 arms at Lin Hao. He darted left and right, trying to counter with lightning. Every time he launched an attack, the giant clamped its jaws shut, shielding Ba Tianhu completely. Haha, you've run out of tricks. As Ba Tianhu spoke, Lin Hao used his fishing rod to pull himself onto the giant's head while the leader's vision was blocked. He raised his pistol and fired point blank. Blood poured from the giant's mouth, and it toppled backward. Teacher, get clear. Zhang Sini shouted a warning. Lu Moyu dodged out of the way. The collapsing giant crushed Crocodile's body beneath its weight. Seeing their leader fall, Ba Tianhu's remaining underlings lost the will to fight and fled toward the exit. Lin Hao unleashed a spreading storm of lightning, striking down every last one of them. What on earth happened? Lin Hao asked. He and Lu Moyu had only been gone a few minutes, yet everything had descended into chaos. If the collapsing stone giant had not created such a commotion, they would have arrived too late to save Gu Qingxian. Zhang Sini and the others recounted the entire confrontation. Lin Hao lifted Gu Xiao off the ground by his collar and slapped him awake. Who dares strike me? Gu Xiao shouted. He opened his eyes to see the wreckage and blood covering the floor, and his bravado vanished instantly. I did. Any complaints? Gu Xiao immediately switched to a fawning grin. Not at all. It's an honor to take a beating from you. He even struck his own cheeks hard, the blows nearly as forceful as Lin Hao's. You're Gu Qingxuan's great-uncle? That's right, her great-uncle. We're family. Let's talk this over calmly. Lin Hao, spare him. I have questions to ask. Gu Qingxian struggled to her feet despite her injuries. Lin Hao lowered his raised hand. He would let Gu Qingxian handle the interrogation. How did you track me down? Gu Qingxian stared intently at Gu Xiao. Gu Xiao wanted to lie, but confronted with Lin Hao's grim expression and Gu Qingxuan's glare, he gave in. It's an item. Ba Tianhu found AC, ranked treasure from a chest that can trace blood relatives. Once he learned about my connection to you from the leaderboard, he used my blood to activate the blood compass and locate you. Can AC rank item really do that? The blood tie between us is generations removed, extremely thin. The compass locks onto the closest person sharing my bloodline, and you're the only one left nearby. What? Rage surged through Gu Qingxian. She grabbed Gu Xiao by the collar. Gu Xiao's branch of the family had fallen on hard times, but there were still over 20 relatives sharing their bloodline, most living in Jiangxing and relying on Gu Qingxuan's family. There was no way she was the only one remaining, unless... What did you do to my cousins? Gu Xiao shook his head. It wasn't me. It was all Ba Tianhu's doing. Fear flickered across Gu Qingxuan's face. Where is my brother Gu Changsheng? He wasn't among those we located. Gu Qingxian let out a quiet breath of relief. It seemed her brother was in a separate regional channel, far away. Lin Hao, do you know the Dafa supermarket? Of course. It was one of the 3 largest shopping complexes in Jiangxing. It started declining when I was in primary school, and by middle school most shops had moved out. Hardly anyone goes there now. Gu Qingxian shot a sharp glance at Gu Xiao. It's all thanks to this guy. My father entrusted our community supermarket to his family to manage, but look what he did. He took the operating capital given to him to indulge in reckless spending, and even. Gu Qingxian trailed off. I just wasn't cut out for running a business. Since the money was meant for me anyway, I didn't see anything wrong with taking the funds directly. Then why did you ask me to smuggle drugs for you? Gu Qingxian roared. Everyone was stunned. The revelation carried enormous weight. Large beads of sweat rolled down Gu Zhao's face. I was wrong, Qingxian. Please forgive me. Do you have any idea how despicable it is to make a 7-year-old child transport drugs? It was then that Gu Qingxian recounted what had happened all those years ago. When Gu Qingxian was 7, Gu Xiao approached her. He told her she needed to deliver an important package to the older brother of one of her classmates and promised to buy her candy. He slipped a bag of white powder into her school bag. Only after growing up did she realize the package contained drugs. The memory haunted her endlessly. She had abided by the law her entire life, yet unwittingly became a drug courier. She knew she had been too young to bear legal responsibility at the time and had no reason to torment herself over it. Yet she had always strived to live an unblemished life, just like her elder brother. Lin Hao asked in confusion, your family is wealthy. How did you even come into contact with such people? It was clear Lin Hao was referring to the classmate's brother. The richer people get, the more likely unsavory characters gather around them, Gu Qingxian said disdainfully. She did not wish to pursue the matter further. Turning to Lin Hao, she said, I would appreciate it if you could kill him. Thank you. No, Qingxian, spare me. For your grandfather's sake, give me one more chance. Gu Xiao dropped to his knees and begged, slamming his head against the ground repeatedly until blood streamed from his forehead. Lin Hao granted him a swift death with a single gunshot. They quickly tidied up the scene. All 15 of their group survived. A few had sustained blade wounds while fighting their opponents, but Lu Moyu could heal those injuries, so there was no cause for alarm. When it came to weaponry, their opponents armed only with machetes were no match for Li Muzi and the others. The women possessed well-made blades, spear guns, and protective gear, yet they lacked combat experience. Unfortunately, the blood compass was broken, and there were no other valuable items on the bodies. Lin Hao and the rest left the aquarium. They needed to depart the island as soon as possible and hurry to seize control of Baxiana's vessel. All treasure chests on this island had already been looted, leaving behind no supplies, only strange varieties of fish. Nothing here was more valuable than what could be found aboard Baxiana's ship. Furthermore, the fish resembled those found in the Sea of Japan. Lin Hao trusted the catch he reeled in himself far more. They had not traveled far when they spotted a group of people running in the distance. Running was hardly the right word. They were fleeing in complete disarray. They raced toward the dock where boats were moored, ignoring their injuries as blood dripped from their bodies. They never looked back and failed to notice Lin Hao and his party. Something is wrong. Stay alert, Lin Hao warned. He led the others toward the boats at a sprint. Soon they caught sight of what was chasing the fleeing group. Swarms of sea creatures, mutated marine monsters, giant crayfish, each at least knee-high, with the largest reaching nearly half the height of an adult human. There was a popular saying online: if crayfish grow to human size, you had better possess strength comparable to Ultraman. These crayfish differed from full-grown lobster monsters only in scale, and with such massive bodies, their destructive power was easy to imagine. The horde of sea monsters surged forward, rapidly closing the gap to Lin Hao's group. Too many among them were wounded and could not move quickly. If they continued retreating together, the entire party would be wiped out. Lin Hao made an instant decision to stay behind and slow the pursuing monsters. You go ahead. Wait for me on the boat. Lu Moyu intended to carry Gu Qingxian, otherwise she would remain to hold off the monsters alongside Lin Hao. Gu Qingxian had suffered severe internal injuries, and Lu Moyu could not heal her completely in a short time, so she lifted her onto her back and pressed on. Lin Hao finally understood why the treasure chest had not been guarded by a powerful sea kraken. The true danger lurked outside. He would rather fight the level 3 octopus monster again than face this endless tide of sea creatures. Lin Hao's storage space held several fish tanks retrieved from the aquarium, all filled with seawater. He emptied the water onto the ground to create a makeshift barrier. As the charging sea monsters stepped into the puddles, Lin Hao channeled electricity through the water, slaying a large number of the creatures at once. Killed one level 1 crayfish monster. Reward: 1 survival coin times 27. Killed 1 level 1 crab monster. Reward: 2 survival coins times 19. A single attack earned him more than 50 survival coins. It was incredibly rewarding. Electrical attacks drained his stamina rapidly. Otherwise, he would have kept fighting indefinitely. He unleashed 2 more bursts of electricity, killing over 70 sea monsters. Left with barely any stamina remaining, Lin Hao turned to flee. He could run far faster than the creatures and safely reach the boat. Huff, huff. Sorry, crayfish, I'm heading off. No need to see me out. Lin Hao glanced at the horde of sea monsters, almost reluctant to leave. Every single one was a walking source of survival coins. But when the monsters began diving into the sea and swimming toward their boat, Lin Hao shouted urgently, "Hurry, set sail. They're going to climb aboard." The boat lurched from a standstill and accelerated to 50 nautical miles per hour, setting course to intercept Baxiana's ship. It did not take long. Before the vessel finished accelerating, they blocked the path of Baxiana's group. "Sir, spare us. We were forced into this." "Everyone trots out the same line," Lin Hao said, exasperated. None of the men bore any wounds, yet their hands were stained with fresh blood. How could they claim they had no choice? After eliminating the remaining gang members, they stumbled upon a harrowing sight. More than a dozen young women were locked inside a cabin. Their clothes were torn, and they were covered in injuries. The air reeked of blood and filth, a clear sign of the suffering they had endured. When the women saw men enter, they immediately huddled together, trembling, too afraid to meet Lin Hao's gaze. Only one woman appeared relatively unharmed, with few injuries on her body. "Is Baxiana dead?" she asked first.